And I lost my job 2 weeks before Christmas. That's...
Wow.
Welcome back to the WatchTower Film Podcast, the film review podcast on the Towercast Network by cinema lovers for cinema lovers.
Us.
And
Okay, me.
I am the cinema.
Us three.
Mr. John Eric Osler giving us an actor perspective.
How you guys doing? We just saw one of the greatest documentaries ever created, in my opinion.
I loved your reactions on this thing. Like, you were in it.
I was,
You
dude.
were there, man. Those are all these same emotions I felt the first time I saw it. I reacted the exact same way.
Really?
Yeah.
I've been there.
Like, beat per beat. Mr. Michael Lau.
Hello.
Giving us cinematography.
I like cameras and I like movies.
Not in that order.
And lights, too, no?
And lights.
Mr. Austin Young.
Howdy.
Making sure we're sounding good on the ones and twos.
I love that guy.
I love that guy too, you.
He's cool as hell.
I would marry him.
Let's go to 100 real quick.
Ain't legal in Texas yet, buddy. Or is it? I don't know anymore.
That's a verbal agreement, dude.
That's a verbal contract right there.
You have to put me on your health insurance, though.
Sign over your camera now.
You know, I
That's
know
It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia episode 2. Just finish.
Is it?
it's such a weird dialogue because I know somebody and but
I know many people.
well, that's good when it's your turn to tell the story. That's when we're gonna tell it. But I know somebody who recently was having this conversation like, I like him, but I don't know if I'm ready to put him on my health insurance. That was like a very real conversation. And I was like,
That's nowadays,
is that
dude.
where we're at? Like, you know, is
Yo,
like,
I think at our age, that's like a valid argument.
in that thing, it's kind of like, I love him, but, you know, do I want him insured? It's like, what the fuck? Like,
I mean, we went to go eat, you know.
What? I can't hear you.
We want to go grab some food, you know, to screen the film. And as we were going, I don't know why I got checked an email, and I was checking my my mortgage payment. You know, was coming up.
Oh, you were
and
telling us,
I was
yeah.
like celebrating. I was like, oh man, the taxes aren't as high. I can get a sandwich tonight. You know, so it's a very real thing. It's a very real place
struggle.
to be.
Do you feel like that's just indicative of like our age and where we're kind of at?
sure.
You know, like we're talking about insurance and
Absolutely.
I'm always thinking of that meme where it says, like, I should have bought a house when I was in 6th grade.
Yeah,
Instead of-
dude,
Oh,
because-
yeah.
I'm always looking at that. I'm like, damn, that's so true.
yeah, it's so dumb.
Anyways, we're back, as you can see, on the new set.
You like?
Same place, different
like.
place.
Is there something different? I didn't notice.
We've been wanting to go with a couch setup for a little while now, and an opportunity arose where we
Yes.
could,
You
and we
just want the law to do the old yawn on you.
took
don't
it.
you?
You know, his knee is touching mine right now, and that's
And it looks right.
more
feels
than
right.
enough. You know, it feels right.
How's it going, baby girl?
I actually like the setup. You guys comment if you guys don't like it, if it's too much.
Yeah,
This guy
please.
Do you feel lonely over there?
feels right.
By the way, we're trying out a new couple of camera angles. I mean, if you're looking at the wide, it's still the wide. But now there's
It
a
is.
lot more in there. But if you're looking at ours, hi, this is our camera.
We're trying to play with it.
You don't have to edit. You could literally just stay on the wide the entire time. Stay wherever you want. Austin's gonna put himself on the Austin cam, and
While you're just the wide.
So on this camera over here, it's just me and Carlos.
Is it?
And in
I
this
didn't
one-
see the angle, so I don't know what.
And
but-
that one,
but, you
it's
know.
now the solo Castro cam.
No, this is to encourage more guests.
Yeah.
More actors, directors
Yeah.
to come and sit with us
You
and
just
talk
want more
about film.
FaceTime.
Yeah,
Huh?
You just want more FaceTime.
he is an actor.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty narcissistic, so
Is this
I'm just trying to keep talking so the camera can stay on me.
Yeah, I
is
want to
this the
know.
moneymaker?
This is
Yeah.
the moneymaker right here.
What I want to
Listen.
know is when you crossed over to pick tomatoes and stuff like that, were you always wearing the immigrant jacket, or did you get it later?
Actually, I brought this all the way from fucking Nicaragua.
Nicaragua?
Nicaragua.
Is it really?
Yeah, bro.
Nice. It's nice. Sandra has a very similar jacket, very like the same. It's jean on the outside, it's like furry on the inside, and we call it the immigrant jacket. That's just always the thing. Like
Yeah,
every
it is,
immigrant
it is.
has an immigrant jacket.
And I've had another one because you've also said that. I've had a couple of those.
old school like '80s immigrants, you know, like our
You know,
parents,
you
Like
find
the
them in the back
classy
of a Home
ones,
Depot.
yeah.
You just put them in hot water. You
and
know?
they got this jacket on. It's the
clean as new.
craziest thing.
We can say that because we're Mexican.
We sure can.
Yeah.
You know who else was Mexican? Was the subject of this documentary.
Woo! You know, it's like a
We're
circle.
talking about
We're talking about
1985.
No, not 1985.
1932.
I think it was 2013. Let me
2012.
2012. 2012. Searching for Sugar Man. Written, edited, and directed by Malik Bendjelloul. I hope I'm pronouncing that right.
Oscar-winning documentary.
Oscar-winning documentary.
It won.
I hope
It
you
won the
guys
Oscar.
have seen this.
It won Best Documentary at the Oscars.
Really?
85th Oscars, if I'm not
It's
mistaken.
okay.
Oh, really?
And yeah, it won the Oscar in 2013.
Can
Or
you move it up a little bit? We're just getting
2012,
pure
2013. And as you can see on the Blu-ray here, I don't know what my camera, this one, 100% on Rotten Tomatoes when it came out. I think it's at 95 right now.
But apparently nobody cares
Official
about
selection at Tribeca Film Festival. Winner of the Audience Award and the Special Jury Prize at Sundance Film Festival.
Rightfully so.
Grand Jury Prize nominated. Sundance Film Festival. Winner of the LA Film Fest. Among a ton of other awards, but most prestigiously the Academy Award. I think it won the Golden Globe 2 weeks before, actually. Something in that vein. So
Was that 2 weeks before? That was at a.
It was 2 weeks before Christmas.
this has been one of my favorite documentaries since I first screened it in film school at documentary film class with Sabiha Khan.
I'm gonna go a step
Shout
further,
out.
dude.
Shout out to Dr.
Shout out.
Khan. She
Hope
introduced
she's still
me.
doing it.
Yeah, she is. She actually just got a grant for her documentary film. So congratulations to Dr.
Yeah.
Khan. She's still doing documentaries and killing it. And she introduced me to this film via her documentary film class.
Lovely.
Documentary cinema class, to be exact. And I remember watching maybe two other documentaries in that. And we watched a lot. We
Yeah.
watched a lot of documentaries in that class. And maybe one other one kind of sort of made an impression on me.
I'm trying to remember it.
Nothing impacted me more than this. I remember everybody in the class was like obsessed with the thin blue line,
Oh man.
and everybody was going crazy for it. And I was like, okay. And then she showed us this, and I was like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
And to this day, I kept wondering because I remember I screened it for Austin, I think at some point, and you, I think, had screened it at some point, but for like class or for something else, right? You had screened it. And I remember just thinking, like, we were talking about would it be a Walter Mitty moment in the last episode. And I kept wondering as we screened the film today, am I obsessed with the story or the storytelling? And this is one of the rare times where it's both.
Yeah, it contributes to both.
In a lot of fashions. More than anything, the story, right? The magical realism of this story.
It's
Really.
still
yeah.
unbelievable to
Yeah.
right now. We just finished
And
watching it.
It's
and
great. It makes for a great topic, but it's like we talked about in the last episode. It could be an amazing topic and still suffer. And this one didn't.
Oh yeah. No.
you know,
I mean,
yeah.
I think every documentary, especially when you're tackling a subject matter like this, the big goal is why should we care?
Right,
And
right.
you, as a documentary storyteller, are trying to use all the elements of filmmaking, everything from the way it's shot,
Yeah.
the way it's edited, everything. You're trying to use all the elements at hand
Yeah.
to make people care about this
Yep.
like topic.
Yep.
And how interesting that of all things to make people care about, it's about somebody that nobody cared about. Yeah,
Absolutely.
it really is this story where it's kind of like, hey, have you ever heard of Rodriguez? Like, no one else has either. Like, no, what a surprise!
And the only people I know of in my world that know about Rodriguez have either screened the documentary, and that's how I was introduced to him, or they're friends of mine who, like a buddy of mine, shout out to Oscar, he's the only other person musically I know knows Rodriguez. And he grew up in the music world. He's a guitarist. His dad owned a record shop at one point and stuff like that. So his dad's a big music enthusiast. So I remember I think we were on a trip or something for work, and I played Rodriguez, and he's like, oh, fuck yeah, dude, I love Rodriguez. I'm like, you know Rodriguez? Like, I freaked out because nobody to this day, like, I screened this documentary, 8 years ago at this point, 7 years ago
Yeah.
at this point, and nobody, like, I've introduced people to Rodriguez, but nobody. And then, like, he's like, dude, I knew the music and I had the record growing up, and then the documentary came out, and like I showed everybody the documentary, and it was that really cool point
that
of like,
just adds to the mystery.
oh
of it.
man, the mystery
Yeah.
of it all, right? But this guy, anytime I listened to his records, I was listening to him this whole week, almost leading up to this, and my gosh, man, what a missed opportunity of a career. But
yeah, I was gonna say
also
this-
by choice.
by choice.
You know, in the
Yeah.
sense. And it's this great enigma. And they introduce this character in the opening as this ethereal being, to a sense, right? Especially in the streets of Detroit, where people knew of him, walk in the streets of Detroit and kind of heard that he plays guitar in a corner off somewhere, and then not knowing that 40 million people in South Africa have quite literally heard of him, and selling 500,000 records over there through bootlegs and other forms. And we'll get into that whole thing, but screen this documentary and you come back if you haven't. But this tells the story of Sixto Rodriguez, known as Sugar Man because of his song Sugar Man, known as Jesus Rodriguez, and known as just simply Rodriguez. And this man made 2 records, official records, where he recorded for Sussex Records.
Yeah.
In L.A., in Hollywood.
The first one was called Cold Fact?
Cold Fact and Coming from Reality.
Coming from Reality. Which he said was the best one, which is why he stopped, right?
Yeah.
Well,
He said because it couldn't get better. That was like, that's the best.
did we already spoil the film?
No.
And it doesn't matter. They
still...
hopefully will have watched the documentary.
Oh, okay.
By the time
So,
they come back.
yeah.
That's the thing. Okay, here's the thing. We were in between 2. This is Mr. John Eric Astro's pick. And I think I strong-armed him a little bit because,
No.
The intrigue, right? And you had a sense of what this thing was. And we screened 2 trailers to decide which one we're going to go with, and specifically Castro. And as we screened it, the trailer gave away the ending. and to me, I remember the first time I screened it. The twist.
For this one?
Yeah, the twist. He's
I
alive.
didn't see that.
No.
The twist. He's alive.
It didn't show
Yeah,
it.
but like towards the end, we could have revealed
It
it
did.
It didn't?
It did. Like, they found him and he was alive.
No.
They said it in the trailer.
No. The only
So
thing
it
they
worried
did
me.
is that they showed the what
then
is
I
it called?
catch that.
No, they showed the concert where he says, "Thanks for being alive."
Thanks for
The last
keeping me alive.
lyrics.
Yeah, for keeping me alive. But then because it was VHS tape and it was
You
kind of
don't know-
archival,
you don't have a sense of
really
time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you really don't have a sense of like, was that recent? Was that
Yeah.
the old Rodriguez? Like what happened?
I
and all
was
that?
a little worried because I remember. Come on, let's face it, guys. We've, especially in film school, right? You're exposed to so many films at once that hopefully they make an impact on you, right? And you're back to back to back to back. I remember thinking twists were cheesy. I remember thinking, and to this day, right? A film has to have an amazing twist for it to really impact me.
Oh yeah.
This twist, I still remember how it made me. I still remember that. What the fuck moment? Like, he's alive. Holy shit.
That was the question I was asking the whole film.
And this is coming from a guy who's a big fan of guys who made an impact globally. Things like the Beatles, and Bob Dylan, and I genuinely think, and what's more is I think it hits a little closer to home too because he's Mexican American, and man, like that just spoke to me a lot of like he could have been that. And kind of been a voice in that regard, and will it have changed the music industry? I mean, he did in his own great way, but it posed all these questions, and it answered a lot of great ones, and then it posed even more questions.
Exactly.
And that kind of like Austin says in a good way, and that's what this documentary did for me at an initial screening. I haven't screened it in years, man. Probably like pre-pandemic, 4 years ago or something. And again, I went in thinking Walter Mitty effect might happen. Don't worry, whatever, right?
Really?
And I didn't. I walked away feeling extremely well about this documentary. And honestly, I was doing research today leading up to this. I didn't remember. I knew it had been like a Sundance Star thing. I didn't remember that it had won the Oscar, to be honest with you. And it made a bigger impact than I even remembered. So lots to jump into in this documentary, but that's my why. What intrigued you, Castro, to say, like, let's go with this? Like, this is what I want to, use my pick for.
Well, what intrigued me was like this myth of a musician.
Yeah.
And then throughout the film, they wouldn't answer the whole question that everybody's had is like, is he still alive, right? Yeah. So they start giving you like little found footage, his lyrics. They start giving you like little snippets of each song. Mm-hmm. And that's just what intrigued me, man. I think I saw like the trailer, the first kind of parts when I first came out, because I kind of remembered the story. But just, man, the myth, dude. I love the myth,
the mystery of the man.
And even like going into like the film.
Yeah.
Like I have all these questions of why did he walk away? Mm-hmm. Was it mental?
I have a theory. I have a theory about that.
Oh, hold on.
But we can.
Yeah. Was it mental, or is it like what I would want it to be? It's one of those things where go out at the top, like one of those guys. Like that's what I thought. That's why I asked you right now. Like he even said it in the film where
There's no.
This one was perfect.
Yeah.
It was just perfect, and he kind of like walked away, which to us as
Yeah.
fans were like, no man, keep doing it, and he
Yeah.
did keep doing it. But
To a certain extent,
I
right?
love that. That's why I wanted to see it.
The producers, it's important to note, like the producers of his records, they list the people, the individuals they worked with.
And-
Michael Jackson, Paul McCartney, Ringo Starr,
Cure.
Bob Dylan, The Cure. I mean, they worked with, for Motown, even the Motown artist, Smokey Robinson, like all these amazing artists. And they said Rodriguez was my favorite of them. A lot of them, he was top 5 for me. Oh, he was my
Yeah,
favorite
top
to ever
5,
work
yeah.
with. And they worked with who we now regard as legends. And that's telling you something, right? That's giving you this preview of, you worked with fucking Michael Jackson and Paul
Exactly.
McCartney, and you're saying Rodriguez. Okay, tell me. I want to know why. And more than anything, this documentary gets you with the intrigue. We all know in rock and roll, things like the 27 Club, things, the notorious suicide stories or overdose stories, or et cetera, right? These are, a dime a dozen in Hollywood, and they're of great intrigue. They interest us, right? Like, oh man, the fucking Jim Morrison died how, and Jimi Hendrix died how, and Sam Kinison died how.
Yeah.
You get these things, right? And then with Rodriguez, they say, oh yeah, man, he shot himself on stage in a bar in Detroit.
No, the way that they open up the film,
Yeah.
which is the best way to open it up.
Yeah.
It's this guy who's saying that like, oh, my nickname
Is
is
Sugar.
based off of one of his songs. To just like, what an opening.
Yeah.
They first of all, this guy, is singing his song, and you could tell it's almost like a song that he's sang a million times
Yeah.
in his car,
Yeah.
knows all the lyrics and everything like that. So it really opens you up to this idea of like, okay, it's a singer, obviously. Like this guy knows him. I don't know who he is, but and then says like, oh man, yeah, my friends used to call me Sugar based off of
Sugar Man.
and the lyrics and all this kind of stuff. But it's really sad because he killed himself by basically dumping a bunch of gasoline on himself and then lighting himself on fire because nobody really cared about him. And it's like, that's how you're gonna open up the story of this man. Like that's literally all we know.
I don't think. It's because nobody cared about him. I think it was more like he was this ethereal artist of a man. And
Oh, yeah,
this
because
was
like,
his
what a
artistic choice. What a way to go out.
dramatic way.
Because he says, he's like, he sang the last lines of his best song.
But-
No,
and
but I'm talking
decided
about the very opening. That very opening
okay,
shot
okay.
where it's just like they say that
Yeah.
it was like the most intense way to like
to
leave,
commit
'cause-
suicide
yeah,
in a
because-
rock and roll kind of story.
Yeah, it's like it's not just
Yeah.
like a quick death. It's like no, it was a very like
He burned to death on stage
Yeah,
in front of the people that were
self-immolation,
looking.
yeah.
Somebody in some other country did that, not to protest something.
Oh yeah,
The
one
monk?
of the
Yeah,
Buddhist
yeah.
monks.
That kind of
yeah.
reminded me of that.
But it was that, and then there was other stories that were generating of like he pulled out a gun, he sang the last lyrics of his song, pulled out a gun, and shot himself. There's other stories that he overdosed. I mean,
And you
there's-
see what I loved about
Yeah.
that is that you start understanding about this guy, and you're like, he's not a narcissist like that.
Yeah,
He's not gonna go out like
right,
that.
right.
But it just fed into the whole myth.
It's just like the law says. I think one of the most amazing ways to open a documentary. Not only that,
Straight.
I'll say this before we get into our ratings. This film impacted me so much initially, and I didn't realize this until a couple of nights ago. I was doing some writing. It also impacted me subconsciously in ways I didn't know, influencing my storytelling. Let me tell you why. If you go to the Tower Productions YouTube, you'll find the only documentary, not the only documentary, but the documentary we put out that I directed called Su Majestad. I did it for documentary class. And this thing has gotten a life of its own because we just put it on our YouTube literally so I can turn it in for class. And now it has like over 50,000 views,
Yeah, I've
and
seen
people are commenting on it from literally all over the world. People from Brazil, people from Argentina, people were like, oh yes, I know his music, and thank you guys for making this because it reminded me, and I grew up in Juarez, and like people from literally from all over the world. And it kind of had a life in its own. And the way I opened this documentary was a record spinning of a 45 of a single that his widow lent me for the documentary, of a 45 spinning, and the song, I do the needle drop, and they did it in my room, man. You clearly see it's like my grandma's house in my room, and I'm doing this needle drop, and then the minute the quote unquote the beat drops for this Mexican ballad, it's a smash cut into like a plethora of archival footage and pictures of Beto Lozano, a great kind of Juarez legend.
Yeah.
And then it quick snippets of testimonials of Le llamaban su majestad, él fue más grande que Juan Gabriel. I mean, like things like a very similar nature of like everybody in Juarez knew him, and why didn't he go bigger, and why wasn't he bigger than this artist or that artist? Showing the scale of who this man was, and then kind of getting into like interviews with his son and his wife, and like winding down. But it was very like, very Rodriguez-ish, right, in the storytelling aspect. And then most recently, I've been trying to finish a script that I started a few years back, a feature revolves around the blues scene, and the lead character, is a version of Rodriguez in a sense, from his story to
homage.
Yeah, absolutely. From his story, no, but like subconsciously. I made this character a 60-year-old Mexican American man who used to play blues in Austin.
Oh, okay.
And I knew nothing that it was influenced by Sixto until now. Like I didn't realize, holy shit, I want him to look like that. That's kind of what I wanted him to look like. So I didn't realize it impacted me on a storytelling front, and again on the cinephile front, and it just did a lot for me, this documentary thus far. So let's get into it. Castro, you get to choose who goes first on ratings and etc.
I say we go this way.
Okay.
Start with Austin or start with you?
I'll start with me. I know I can't give a 10 because 10 is just too high up there, but man, I'm trying to go through my Rolodex of documentaries that I've watched, and I think this is one of the top ones. So I'll go with like 9.6.
9.6.
Yeah, I love the whole structure of it, man. I was intrigued by the discovery of who Rodriguez was.
Yeah.
I've heard of him, I think I saw the trailer. And I love the way they put it together, right? I'm a big fan of found footage or archive footage. I love the whole twist.
Yeah.
Like, I was just waiting for it. I think everybody had that question, like, is he still alive? It's just going to make this film so much better.
And I swear, dude, like, when I saw you, that's why I would keep turning to you, because I remember whether I reacted externally the same way in class or not, I remember, like, on every beat that you were like,
I was into it.
No fucking way. He's not. Nah, he couldn't be real, dude. This couldn't be real. It's too good to be true.
Like, even from this record company to like, I don't know where the money
like
went.
follow the money. And the bullshit. You know where the money.
Yeah,
Like, I mean, every beat, dude. I remember feeling those emotions.
So yeah, I like the beginning, how it's like it's telling you about this guy and these people that are obsessed with this guy, and he's a big fan. He's a big star in South of Africa.
Yeah.
And then you the reveal that he's still alive, and you meet this character that's just humble.
Right.
And he tells you that
Also-
he just left. Huh?
Oh no, I was just gonna say. Also, the way he's revealed, where it's his home window,
Yeah,
and it's like
a
kind of
great
frosted.
reveal was awesome.
And you're just
Terrific
listening
reveal.
to
Because
this
I'm still
music.
doubting at that point.
Yeah.
I was still like,
No, yeah,
it's gonna be his
everybody's
daughter or something. I don't know.
No, yeah, everybody's just like there, like sitting with it, just kind of like. I mean, also when you haven't seen somebody in years, especially like this guy who, at his highlight, it was like the 70s, and he just disappeared.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, where is he, and what does he look
What
like?
does he look like?
Yeah, is it just like this little old bald man, like just?
Am I
comes
gonna feel
out?
bad?
Yeah,
There's
exactly.
Yeah.
You know, so when he opens up, and it's just like, oh no, that's
It's
just
him,
it's
it's
just
older.
Rodriguez.
That's
Yeah,
just Rodriguez.
It's
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah.
So yeah, I loved all that aspect. They interviewed the daughters.
Yeah.
No, we'll talk about that right now.
No, but I like the whole story.
Because
and
it
that,
has its tropes, should we say? Or
Yeah.
That can be discussed.
I'm not talking really much about like how the documentary was filmed, but I love the story that they usually end with the guy didn't leave anything to his family. He overdosed. It seems like he took care of his family.
Yeah. He lived the ground that he could have lived the rock star life. Man.
Exactly.
And he had a second chance at it.
And that's why I think I'm
He
so.
had a second chance at it in '98, and you could have been capitalizing 7 sold out shows in South America, South Africa,
Then it said that he toured like a couple countries
and gave that money to his family.
And
But what I mean is, if you're
he
doing
didn't
that,
go to other countries. He just says he went back to South Africa and played 30 more shows.
Yeah, there you go.
but he did tour when the records were out. He did tour London. He did tour the UK and stuff like that.
When the records dropped, yeah.
When the records dropped in the '70s.
Yeah.
But what I mean is, if you're selling if you're doing 7 sold out shows, you're at the height of people remembering who you were, different age groups, and revamping this thing, right? You could easily go to a record company and say,
hey man,
invest in me. This is going to be good.
Can I get a
And
contract?
cash in, man, and like do this thing, or maybe not even cash in, but say, I'm going to make records the rest of my life. I can live this.
Exactly.
I can continue in this
that's
again.
that's the only thing I don't get about this documentary is like You could tell he loves singing,
But think about those context clues a little bit, right?
Why not?
His daughters revealed to us that post music, he went back to work, and he lived a very Bob Dylan-esque life in the sense that, like, if Bob Dylan wasn't a rock star, he'd be that. He was the guy who, like, I'm gonna go do hard labor and wear a suit while I'm doing it.
that was cool.
I'm gonna study study philosophy at the university. I'm gonna encourage my kids to read books and open their eyes to the world and
Yeah.
art
Yeah.
and the arts. That was who Sixto was, right? I mean,
Yeah,
that's what the intrigue of, like, I think to me that I have another theory we'll get to later, but to me that's what piqued his decision of, like, life is more than that.
I get that,
You know,
but
like,
us as fans, it's
I
like,
know, I'm
No,
with
and
you.
that's-
But it's again the mystery, the intrigue of this man.
and then the more the respect, I
Yeah,
guess. You know,
a
I think-
respectful thing.
yeah,
As an artist, it's like, you had got what all of us want, and you were like, no, there's more to
Exactly.
it. That's a lesson too, in a sense. It's
kind of like that. What's his name? That movie that you like with Ben Affleck and Matt Damon.
a good one hunting.
Yeah, it was like he's burning it. Like
Yeah.
people will kill to freaking.
Yeah.
Like no.
Exactly. You
Yeah, I
know,
know. Weird thought, but
no, that's a great example because they offer him
Scholarship,
$100,000 offers to work for a company, and he was like, no, it's not about the money.
yeah,
man.
the interview.
You know, shit like that. So, yeah, perfect example. I mean,
Yeah, that's why I give it a what was it, a
9.6?
9.6? Yeah,
9.6.
I'm glad I picked this one instead of the Crossroads.
yeah,
9.6 though.
9.6 though. Yeah, I made a joke to a buddy of mine today. They were telling me, hey, we're gonna do this documentary.
Not as good as 9.6 though.
And I told him, I was like, hey,
That's
dude,
like-
how do you think they came
that's
up
the
with
name of
that
the
name,
title.
man? Like, do you think a Mexican family had 5 kids and they were just like, ponle sixto? Like, do you think that's just what happened to come up with the name? But anyways, 9.6.
Yeah, 9.6. Austin, man.
Mr. Young.
First time?
No, I've seen it before.
Oh, okay.
I think this did have the Walter Mitty effect on me, though.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
The story's great, but I don't know. There was some technical stuff that kind of bugged me on it.
Can you bring up an example?
Yeah, what was...
On the editing front, there was a lot of stuff that bugged me. There was a couple transitions that jarred to me, and then
Where they shouldn't have.
Yeah, the big one that stood out to me, and I'm still thinking about it. It was kind of towards the beginning of the film. At least I would have done it differently, anyways. I don't know if you remember during one of the interviews. It eventually transitions into us watching like a CRT TV with the interview being in the TV,
Yeah.
and then he talks about, "Oh, I shut it off."
Oh, right.
And then it like literally does the whole screen instead of like I would have done just the TV and then straight cut away.
Oh, that would have been cool.
So
That would've
stuff
been a
like
little
that
bit
that
more.
kind of bugged me.
Also, how
have-
did you-
Well, no, yeah, I have a take on that. But I guess before we move on to the next question, you're gonna ask him. I remember thinking why, not specifically that moment, but there were moments in the documentary, and this is my justification. This is again what I would have done as a storyteller because I'm obsessed more with the unorthodox way of telling stories. That's what my heroes do, and that's what I've kind of obsessed with. But I remember you guys laughing when he's walking through the snow because he's like tripping over himself and he's like
You
older.
laughed.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think it was Austin
Gee,
DeLau.
no.
And
No,
when I
I'll
saw that
explain
at first,
my
at first
thoughts.
it has that effect on you. Like, oh, that's funny, dude. Why are they showing this?
I never thought it
And
was funny.
You laughed.
No, for a completely different reason.
Sure, buddy.
Well, okay. My point with that is the imperfections of a human, the human condition,
Yeah.
truly, and
Damn,
seeing
you
that
guys
he grew.
find meaning in everything just by the way
No,
you walk,
dude,
slipping on the snow.
but that's
No, because
He's just
really-
old, it's
no, like
slippery.
he's saying, that's one of the most human things. That this guy is a legend. Like
Yeah.
for the past 40 minutes,
I see
we've
what you're
just
saying.
heard that this guy is a legend in South Africa.
Right.
He started a movement.
and
He
he's
inspired
frail,
people.
and he's walking
To
through
go
the
against
snow
their
in his
country.
boots,
like
and
multiple
he's,
things. He inspired one a revolution over
Yeah,
in South
he
Africa.
inspired a revolution.
He
Yeah.
inspired
Quite
a
frankly,
new
yeah.
genre of music that inspired a whole way of thinking and
Basically
having
a punk
expression.
revolution and-
Yeah,
and-
basically the foundation of punk in South Africa.
Yeah.
And then after all that, this man is a legend there, sells millions of albums, and everybody thinks that he's died in this most infamous way. And then you see that he's just like, well, got to go to work. And then he just kind of walks in the snow and it's hard. And, you know, there's no legend. It's just some guy.
I have to say this, and I'm not justifying it. I'm with you, Austin. Like, I get some of those technical choices would
Yeah.
be made differently. I'm obsessed with the imperfections now and how they tell a more genuine story. But more so, what I thought was interesting is this. I'm not justifying it. I didn't read if this was true or not. What I do know is that the filmmaker ran out of money. And it wasn't, I think he had worked on this documentary for like 3 years. And the people who were investing were like, we're going to pull the funding, dude, if you don't
From
fucking.
going back and forth and stuff?
Well, we've talked about how documentaries could take 10 years sometime. I mean, it could take as long as it needs to take, right? And they were going to pull his funding, and he ran out of money. Some of the later footage, he shot on 8mm film, on the actual genuine 8mm film.
Just so
And he loved the consistency of that look and kept with it. And when he ran out of money, let me show you. He downloaded this app, 8mm app on his iPhone. Smart. And that's what he shot the rest of the documentary on, or those bits, in a sense. And it's just called the 8mm app it's free.
I'm downloading this app. What the hell?
I've had this app since I saw the film, dude. I was like, I'm going to download that app. And I already had it in my phone. I guess because I read about it. And my point to that is, it's kind of the glory story for filmmakers like us, right? Like, I'm going to make this doc. Nobody is probably going to give a shit about it. Investors are trying to pull back on it. And, I won an Oscar. Like, I mean, it's a weird kind of thing. I'm not justifying any of the technical stuff. If they didn't have the money or if they did, I don't know. I know they didn't past a certain point, but I remember you guys even pointing out the crane shots. And I remember thinking, okay, that wasn't a clean crane shot, but I liked it.
Yeah.
It was totally great with that crane shot into the record store. And this filmmaker had a lot of bookends, like bookend shots that were great. That crane shot was a bookend shot. Sixto walking out of his house and then walking big into his house at sunset. It was a lot of great choices as a storyteller. So I won't defend the TV thing. I mean, probably could have done that better. But
that's like one example. Like another one that I remember was they were showing some of the 8mm footage, and they were going for the effect of it like running out. But I felt like that sat for like a second, 2 seconds too long. And to me, it was like during. That's what I mean. Is like there's some technical stuff
on the editing front.
Yeah, that got to me.
I feel you.
Some of the B-roll didn't make sense to me. Like I think at one point they were talking to somebody, and he was talking about South Africa, and then it was like B-roll of like Detroit, and like it just didn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, I mean,
and like it was just small stuff like that didn't ruin it for me completely, but like stuff that did stick out to me anyways. The story's great and everything. I wish they would have had more footage of the Sixto interview though. Like in the third act.
Like at the
I wish we would have heard
present
more.
day.
I wish we would have heard a lot more from him, but
yeah.
But doesn't that kind of also leave you in that whole mystery of a man thing? Like,
I feel like.
And by the way, there was a guy at the very end who the journalist. That was his only purpose in this documentary, was to say, when I interviewed him, I was like, am I asking the right questions? Is he just shy? And I was kind of content at the end of like, it just left with the mystery of the man. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I think that was his only purpose in there. He was in here for 2 shots. The first shot was him basically saying, like, it's too good to be true. As a journalist, these stories are always too good to be true. And then going into, like, I got to interview him. And I don't know, like, the mystery held true.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that's the choice he made. But,
But it's just more of a personal preference.
Yeah.
Like,
So overall, what would you rate it?
I'm really hard between an 8.9 and a 9.
Okay.
Yeah. It's I can't. I'm weird. Like the technical stuff really like hits it for me, like kind of docks it a bit. But I'm between there. I guess I'll give it a soft 9.
Soft 9.
Soft 9.
Okay. Do you remember the first time you saw it?
Dude, I swear, I think we saw it at EPCC, dude.
Was it?
I think so with Dukes.
Yeah, because
Maybe.
Khan doesn't show this.
Yeah, I think we saw it at EPCC.
You might be right. You might be right.
Yeah.
Shout out to
to
Dukes.
Khan. Oh.
No, to Dukes.
By the way,
Shout out to Dukes.
that opening shot of the film always sits with me. Like I love that shot, the car on the road, and
The one he was talking about?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's such a solid opening for the film.
And I
Which-
feel like
which
it's
one was it?
iconic.
Which one
Like
was
when
the
you
car?
see it, like
It's the freeway thing. You know, they're
Yeah.
on that highway next to the ocean. That's the one you guys are talking about, right?
Yeah.
And
The guys, it's the way
it's
the
the bald
film,
dude. He's like listening
It's
to
like
the record.
when the
Oh,
film
yeah, yeah.
opens,
and he's
yeah.
singing along.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
I do think that shot's pretty iconic because you show that to any like film buff and they know exactly what film it is. Like,
Yeah.
but
Oh
yeah.
man, I feel like
Soft 9 inches.
Soft 9.
Soft line.
soft 9 inches,
That's
and you just smush the rest in. A great card in Cards Against Humanity,
great
right?
card.
What was it?
It was half hard, and you smush the rest of it
When
in.
you're half hard and you smush it in.
that and the
Half of
ham
it.
cube was great.
That ham cube.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Anyway,
I love
9,
inside
soft 9
jokes.
for Mr. Youngs. 9.69.
Man.
Where you at, buddy?
I'm gonna clip that and just send it to the lady. Soft 9 from Mr. Young.
Soft nut.
No,
And for Mr. Young.
okay. We've been talking about documentaries from what I know this month.
From what you gathered? Okay.
I'm sorry. Like, I just ran out of the chocolate and now I'm coming back to reality. Oh, is that what it is? That's the name of the album, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Coming from reality.
Coming from reality. I'm coming from reality.
Is it coming from reality? Or?
Yeah.
The second one, yeah.
And there's this mix and
There's just mix.
a mix of emotions.
Oh, I see.
I really like the subject matter, and I mean, it did what a good documentary should do. I really went into this thing. I remember I was with you in the car earlier, and
You were asking me all these questions.
No,
about
I
it.
asked you one question. If you thought I asked more, you weren't paying attention. But
No, because you were curious about a bunch of stuff. I was just like,
Well,
wait, I'm
yeah,
not going to tell you
I was
anything. Just
asking,
wait.
like,
Three
what
of
is
them.
No, he
McDonald's
asked
meat
questions. I
made
was
out
like,
of?
I'm not going to tell you.
Where does the chicken nugget come from? And then I asked you about the documentary because we were going to watch
That's
it later
why
on.
you just kind of
yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah. It's crazy.
So where does the chicken nugget come from?
I still don't know. He doesn't answer a lot of the questions I give him.
It's a bunch of chicken nuggets that just throw into.
If you can't find the answer in my tattoos, you don't deserve to know.
Whoa, Humphrey. No. So getting back
I was
before
hoping
we
he was going
lose
to get that joke, but he didn't.
before we
Yeah,
lose the film audience. I asked you, like, what should I know about this? Because
Right.
in documentaries, you know, you're usually introduced to a topic, and if you don't know a whole lot, like a bad documentary, I guess, will
like the last one.
anyway, we'll bring you.
Before you give your rating, I'm curious. You two
Yeah.
took documentary class in Austin. You're right, man. I guess it was at EPCC. I don't remember. Damn, that early? We were exposed to it? I mean, dear God. That's
Right?
probably why it
That's probably
influenced.
why I haven't like.
It must have just barely came out too. If this came out
Yeah,
in
you're right.
12,
20. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Because we were at EPCC
What,
2014.
15?
Yeah. So, thank you, Dukes.
out
I'll
to Khan.
send this episode to her and tell her. Shout out to Khan and thank you, Dukes. I'm curious. When I was in Marty Martin's class, you guys remember Marty
Marty
Martin's
Robbins?
Marty Robbins.
Shout
Marty
out to
Martin's
Marty
class.
Martins.
Yeah.
I took screenwriting with him, and he showed us what I highly regard as my two favorite short films:
The one with the apartment.
the new
The
tenants,
new tenant.
And
Yeah,
La
I love that one.
and
Le
the-
Bolo.
no,
Which one else was it?
that's not a short film.
Yeah, it is.
The Red Balloon?
Yes.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
I remember it being way longer than it being
All
a
right,
short
fellas,
film.
we're gonna
it's
take
like
a break
less
while
than
they
20 minutes.
discuss and argue.
Well, anyways,
right,
no.
we're back.
The new tenants and
Yeah, which
Le
one else?
Ballon.
Tangerine. Not Tangerine.
What was it about? What was it about?
Flamenco dancing, or not flamenco.
It's a short.
It's a short. It's a German, if I'm not mistaken. It's French. Might be French. And it's about a guy who works in an office who is friends with a guy who's like intimidated to talk to a girl, and this girl happens to he like wants to meet somebody, but he doesn't know how to dance. And the guy,
Flamenco at 5:15.
which one?
Is it flamenco at 5:15?
No, I don't think it's flamenco dancing. I think it's another type of dancing.
No,
And I like that one better than the new tenants. Dear God, what am I?
You got to give me something, man.
Yeah, I don't remember that.
It's got a weird name too.
You're burning film.
We're not shooting on film.
Oh man, just Google like guy in office teaches dance to friend. I don't know. It's a great picture. You find it on YouTube. It's
I've
called
seen that one.
the reason why tangerine it rhymes with like tango Argentini. It's called Tango Argentini.
Oh, Tangi Argentini.
Yes, Tango Argentini, and it's an Argentinian film.
2006.
Yeah, great picture.
Okay.
And my point with this is,
Yeah,
I
Dirk
still
Van
think about those
Dyke.
films.
Mm-hmm.
By the way,
yeah.
if I'm not mistaken, he showed them to us because they're both of them are Academy Award winning shorts. And I oh man, this is, and a lot of them. This is why like I don't give a shit about length because these films, well, in terms of film, other stuff we'll see. Other filmmakers, your film has to be 8 to 10 minutes to meet a festival. Bullshit. These are Academy Award winning films at 30 minutes a pop, 15, 60
Yeah,
minutes a
that's
pop.
what I'm
Bullshit.
saying. If it's
So
good,
bullshit.
it don't matter.
Okay, so my point with that is there wasn't something like that in either documentary. Like they didn't show you guys this documentary. They didn't mention this documentary. Or was there a documentary? I know you talk about Man with a Movie Camera a lot. Was there a documentary that did this for you in film class?
Yeah.
Which one?
Man with a movie camera.
Man with a Movie Camera.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
I just don't know how. Again, continuously from the last episode, why don't more people know about this fucking film?
Because
even
you
now?
know what
about
it is?
to ask that.
I feel like there's a weird kind of.
Am I the niche guy? Am I the fucking niche
no,
film
you
guy
think
now?
it's
Take it this way. Take it this way. There's a train that goes on this perpetually moving train, and you just see
In
these,
film?
Yeah, and you see these cars go by, and I feel what happens is that when like an Oscar year happens, it's a great way to kind of put milestones for what cinema is at that year and what it's made. And it highlights a lot of these great films. It highlights like this film, right?
Yeah.
But if you were to really go in deep and look at everything in that category that's ever been produced and ever been made, I'm sure you would find better stuff than this one. And I feel like what happened is that for that moment in time, that experience you had is the
Strong
same.
words.
No, it's the same experience that I had when I watched like Free Solo, and a lot of people
Right.
probably had
Oh,
recently
okay,
with Free
okay.
Solo
That's a
because
good one.
it's an Oscar-winning documentary for a reason, and it really drives you into this world, and you feel like when you watch it, you feel like you're at the pinnacle of what a great
Documentary cinema.
documentary or a great film in whatever category you want to look at is for that sequence. But
The only thing that makes me content with that reasoning and the nature of this film and the nature of this subject is this is what Sixto wanted for people to discover his story
You think that's what he wanted?
organically, not like
I think this is what-
You know, I don't think he was that smart. I think he was just.
I think this is what the
No,
people
no, no,
but
not-
like
not-
you
not
like
too.
like almost like supernaturally, right?
No, I feel like the
This
people
is-
who like him and the
Yeah.
people who admire his work and everything, they would have wanted this documentary to live out that way. That at least at one moment in time, the
Has this
love and
underground
the
finding of it,
recognition, the love and the recognition that they wanted this person to have, he finally got. You know, and
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I think that's what it is because you see at the very end.
That's a nice
It's not
bowl
it's not a Sixto cheering like. Finally, people can listen to my story. It's the same group of music enthusiasts who were at the record shop that had their little
It's
glass
almost their story of finding
of whiskey.
Uh-huh.
Not a sponsor. And
the documentary is called "Searching for Sugar Man." Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's about them finding out about him.
Their
or, you know,
hurrah that
Yeah.
finally the mystery was solved, and not only that. They almost feel good about like now that we know the story, we can just let it continue on. Like they say, hey, we know that he's out in America in Detroit, just still sweeping
Just
floors
living.
and you know doing honest work.
Yeah.
And as long as we know where he's at and what's going on, then we'll be happy. And you know we'll still love his music. And that's kind of like what this documentary is. It's very much like it's a blip in time. People loved it, cared about it. It won the Oscar. I mean, it had to get a lot of attention then, and then it moves on. But I mean.
to be fair, a lot of people, unless it's over sensationalized, like we talked about last time, things like Blackfish, Searching for Neverland, or the R. Kelly one, or whatever, you don't. The mass society doesn't care, right?
Yeah.
I mean, especially about documentaries.
Yeah.
And it's weird because we now live in the age of TV, a renaissance in TV, and a renaissance in series, and a renaissance in docu-series. But they're not very memorable at the end of the day. And again, I think the weird thing about good documentaries, great documentaries, is for cinephiles, I don't know if you guys agree, even unless you're like a hard documentarian or documentary lover, a cinephile for the most part, a narrative cinephile for the most part, will hold their favorite documentary in this little corner on their shelf.
Yeah.
You generate a list. Let's say somebody asks you for your top 10 films of all time.
Right.
Most people won't have a documentary on that list, right? Even cinephiles. I haven't experienced that.
Yeah, exactly.
I won't list a documentary. And should I not? I don't know. But it ends up being this niche thing, even documentary stories. So I think that's part of why it gets forgotten even faster. And the attention span of like...
And
I agree.
The thing is
So
that
like, oh, sorry.
oh no, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think just a little add on to that. When it first like came out, like because I was looking it up, they had Rodriguez on like Jay Leno, Letterman,
Oh, they did?
60 Minutes.
He did his own press run.
Yeah, he did a whole press run. When the
And then
film
like
came
how
out.
long, like how many years did he do that until you just said, I'm going
I
back?
think just that year, just the
Just-
campaign
yeah.
for the
Just that
Oscar,
year?
maybe, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a weird front, right? By the way,
like that.
just to
I love
show you
that.
what that man is, like I said, he could have capitalized on all this
Yeah.
fame, right? I read that we see his new song, right, of the unfinished third album.
Yeah.
I read that he begged the storytellers, he begged the filmmakers, don't put that in. I don't want that in. I don't want people thinking like, oh, look, he's promoting his third album coming up. He didn't want that.
No, but
and none of us, I don't think any, I didn't
I
see
didn't
it that
take it
way,
like that,
certainly.
yeah.
Yeah.
But he wanted he like begged the store. Nah, man, I don't want people to know.
But that just shows his character.
Exactly.
He's so, humble.
Exactly. That's why I say it's this ethereal thing of maybe this is how he wanted the legacy of this film, of his story to live on. It's just like, I want people to find me in the record crates.
I think it goes deeper than that. I think there's something just dark, something like he can't let go of, something maybe that's...
in the music
like
industry?
He did something that he just feels like he doesn't deserve all this.
Maybe.
There's something, because you can tell, like, he loves playing the guitar, but it's just like...
You know what it might be too? What it might be too is he gets a record deal, right? Somebody finds him in a bar. Essentially, this is really what happens. Because he gets a record deal, his 2 records flop, and one of 2 things happen. Wasn't for me, man. Give it my best shot, or I saw the ins and outs of the record industry. I want no part in this.
No, I think.
But both of them are. But the first one could have been a little bit more.
No, I'm just saying to tag
both of them
on his point, but I have a different theory on it. I'm saying to tag on God's point on like his character and whether he wanted this or not.
Yeah.
I didn't get any and I'm gonna drop the word inklings.
Okay, well, for the audience that don't know that.
Are you the
Do you need to know what inklings are?
No, not the audience does.
No, just like little breadcrumb, just a little
feeling. You didn't get a feeling. You didn't get an intuitive.
I didn't get an intuitive feeling.
Thank you.
Also known as inklings. That he had any resentment or any type of like malice towards kind of like the industry, because he just kind of
that's why
he
the
even
second
talked
one,
about it. Like he's like, I guess that's just music business, right? Like some
Right.
you don't ever really know
That's
how
why
this
I
is
think
gonna
it's
go.
the first one.
But
Like, give him a shot. 2 records flopped. Moving on.
But I mean, he loved music so much. But go for it.
Yeah. No, I just feel like he just kind of accepted that.
Yeah.
And then also, when you look at like Dylan and you look at a lot of these artists that are extremely political, especially for like the times, right? Like the 70s and all that. And they're talking about this like honest America. I feel like the goal of that music and the more than the music, the goal of that person's kind of message is like, look at the reality of the world.
To be anti-establishment.
Yeah, to be anti-establishment. And then also look at like what facade you're living in. Like this whole idea of like, you think that like this president is looking out for you and he wants everything that's good for you. Like, do you really know him? Can you see past like what he's saying? Like, it's that kind of stuff that inspires movements. But even like after he quit music, like his daughters talk about how he just wanted to go to the protest still. And then the people that were around him, let me educate you. Let's go to the museum. Let's go to the library.
And he even
it's like,
tried to make a difference in policy. He ran for mayor. He ran for city council.
yeah, he was doing what he believed in with his music. Like the music, sure, you might have thought like, oh, but you're an artist and you could have made great things. And it's like, no, as a person, there was a goal. There was a message.
Another side of that coin is you asked us during the documentary, Castor, and I honestly didn't remember. There's no mention of his wife. You know,
3 kids.
That other kind of mysterious side of him, right? He had 3 kids who ran around and he raised, because they even said like, oh yeah, we lived in 26 different houses, and he came home from work and like, I mean, and
then also he ended up having a kid like in South Africa. So
grandkid.
Oh, grandkid.
A grandkid. His daughter had
remember
a
that?
kid.
Okay. I thought that was him. I was like, oh, okay.
No, grandkid. He has a South African grandkid, which is what kind of made it special for that
kind
part
of
of the story.
you know, I mean, we don't know, and I think it's best that we don't know. But like look at the person like he just came out in a commercial with Ryan Reynolds. He's from Ghostbusters.
Bill Murray or the other guy?
No, the guy who the guy who left acting.
Rick Moranis.
Yeah, Rick Moranis. Where if you look at that guy, like he was starting to gain a really prominent comedy career, and people really wanted to see more of him. But then,
he was like at the peak of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
But then like after his wife died, then
that's right.
He was like, I just want to be an honest guy. He's like,
he raised his kids.
He raised his kids, and he was like, I'm gonna be there for my family.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
maybe that's the underlying thing.
My theory is, and I don't really know much, but from what I saw is, you know how people, when they do a lot of drugs and, you know, they go through the whole rock star life.
Yeah, when they survived the 60s, yeah.
Exactly. When they still survive, they don't come out the same. So you think like maybe he knew like, I can't keep performing, I can't keep singing these songs.
Like, I'll kill myself. Like,
no, but he never was that. He never.
Well,
no,
we know of, right?
He
He
started
did?
doing
Yeah.
it. Well, he did 6 sold out shows, and he did 30.
Oh, no,
and-
no. But I think what the last thing is personality-wise, we never know if when the 70s and 60s and 70s when he, had a record deal and was touring, we don't know that he got into the rock star lifestyle.
Like there
Was no I did hard drugs and I needed to leave that
he
life.
didn't sell albums here.
Yeah.
He went
He
to
didn't get
do
the
shows
rock star
and
success, too,
They did a
right?
tour.
I thought like maybe a little bit in his hometown.
No.
I mean,
Nobody
even
knew.
He was
before.
always just that guy, right?
Yeah, no, they said he
People
would just
were like
kind of
comparing
go
him to a
around.
homeless guy in his hometown.
They thought he was homeless. Yeah.
Yeah, but if anything, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, I don't know why I thought that.
No,
like
no, no,
maybe like his hands just aren't the same anymore.
Maybe,
Well, if you notice,
maybe.
he's missing a finger. Like
I
that's also a big
was
thing.
wondering if he was or if he was doing this.
No. I was looking at it like the different shots and
Yeah.
all that when he talks and all that kind of stuff. Like you
At the
can
end?
clearly see like the.
See?
But I
Yeah,
mean,
but
he works
could've-
construction.
Yeah, he works construction, so he could have chopped
Yeah.
off.
No,
his
but that's
finger.
what I'm saying. Like maybe that stopped
Maybe,
him.
I know a
maybe.
guy
Because
who's
that's what
missing a
happened.
finger.
Side note,
I'd
that's
like
what
to,
happened with Michael Jordan.
leaning into the romantic side of me, I'd lean into the fact that the mom of the kids died, and he was like, "There's more to life than music. There's more to life than
That
the
could
record
also
deal."
be it.
I'd lean into that side a little more.
My final note: 8.
8.
Yes.
Wow.
I love this documentary. I definitely want to show it to more people, and I love the techniques. But I'm going to stay with the objective truth that when I rate something, more than it being something that I attach myself to, because again, I love Walter Mitty, and I'll revisit that film. But is it something that pushes the medium forward? And is it something that's going to impact future filmmakers where they're going to make a film this way? Which, as we've heard, it hasn't. I'm joking. But I think that though there's elements of solid storytelling here, and definitely watch this if you want to get into filmmaking and want to get into documentary storytelling to see what are the fundamental ways that you could get a story and people to care about a person or anything. I feel like it does it so well.
I agree.
But you can see where it does.
Where it suffered.
Not that it suffered. It's just the fact that I know for a fact that this had to have gained inspiration from other documentaries talking about other people, the stylings, the storytelling. So that's all it is. It's a really well put together documentary. It definitely will get your interest. It'll get you going. Everything about this is great.
Yeah.
But I can't say that this is going to be the documentary that invented this style, and that's so hard because
So what do you think was lacking? Because I think this is one of those
Where
stories. I think this is one of those documentaries where the story's so good that you don't have to do a lot of production to it.
But is
I think
That's
the
and
sto- I
that was
think
that's
the
why I
story
posed
was-
that's why I posed the question at the beginning of, are we obsessed with the story or are we obsessed with the storytelling? And there's no right answer, right? But at the end of the day,
I just think like the story was so good that you didn't have to
you know
really,
what's hard
really.
is that in this genre of documentary, and we talked about before and we touched upon a little bit, it's one of the oldest forms of storytelling. It's really where cinema was born,
Yep.
and because of that, documentary storytelling really does have the foundation of everything behind it.
That's true.
And because of that, it's taking.
it's hard to innovate in that.
It's so many
field.
good elements. I mean, look at the way that they opened up the film.
Yeah.
It said we need a hook. We need to establish that there's a really good hook, a solid way to present this character, and that idea of storytelling had been perfected over now over 100 years.
I see what you're saying.
And to get to this point where then we can understand how to create a good hook. It incorporated animation stylings into the film, so that way in areas that are fuzzy for the audience, we could visualize and see where he was at.
Yeah.
It took, like the app, the 8mm app, to give you the texture of like, we're back in this old time. And I feel like there's so many elements that are borrowed and put into here that make it amazing. But everything's borrowed. And I think for me, that's the challenge, is that if I really have to look at this as a documentary, and let's say if I have to tell somebody, this is the Citizen Kane of documentaries, I can't say that this is it. But
Sure.
I also don't know what is.
That was my follow-up question was, I'm with you. I'm so not well versed in the world of documentary storytelling.
But you're versed enough in cinema to know that this is not the Citizen Kane of documentaries.
This is the question I ask you. What is?
Man with a movie camera.
I mean,
I'm with
it
Carlos.
innovated, but
That's what it is. It's that.
I don't think
invented-
storytelling is
everything.
just innovating. And you know me, man. I've also
Austin.
talked about how I embrace my influences
Austin.
in my storytelling.
You know what I'm saying.
And I don't think storytellers should be afraid of that. I think you
I hate
should
when people say
embrace
borrowing.
kind of the masters that came before you. And I think in documentary storytelling, there's a lot of very creative people out there that really shine in that vein. I mean, I remember when I went to LA, I screened this portion of this documentary that this Iranian filmmaker made. And she's a terrific storyteller. And it was her first documentary. Yeah, I mean, and by the way, just to note, not that it matters, maybe it does matter to you guys, I don't know. This is not only the first film this guy ever made, it's the only one he ever made. This storyteller didn't continue making films.
Yeah.
So he was probably just obsessed with this
Yeah,
guy.
Aren't
maybe.
there a lot of documentarians that also follow that route, though?
Yeah.
That they do one good story, the one thing that needs to be told, and that's it.
Yeah. And by the way, this isn't in combat with your rating at all or kind of the innovation. I just think I'm saying another version of what Castro is saying, right? Castro is essentially saying, if the story is that good, who cares? I'll take it a step further and say
So not that who cares, but a simple structure
is all it needs.
Exactly.
I just think that innovation, but remember, my philosophy in cinema is, what did you walk away with? What did you walk away feeling? And if we tear apart this thing on the technical front to death, we'll never finish, right?
Yeah.
So, like, because as storytellers, we can point all this shit out. I always try to go in with a film and go out of a film with, did I feel anything? Did it do anything for me? And if it did, I tend to lean into or explore those emotions more than exploring, that was weak filmmaking.
No, and
you know,
that's,
and
that's the
I know you're not.
challenge. No,
yeah.
that's the challenge
Yeah.
because I know in myself right now, like if I was to rate it like close to you, because when you said your rating right now, you
9.6.
said like a 9.6.
Because I rated it
No,
not
From the heart, right?
And also, let's pretend or not pretend, because I guess you don't really know or don't remember. This was, let's call this the first time you ever saw it, right?
Yeah.
no,
Fully,
for me it
yeah.
was, yeah.
And for both of you,
Yeah.
essentially.
And so, like with your rating, it made sense. It's like 9.6, and for me, I was like, you know what? I think I want to sit up there with you. I want to sit up there with the fact that this was
With the more
great.
you sat
yeah,
with it.
no, because I really do enjoy the twists, the turns, and the way it builds you up to the point where then when there's that big reveal. Oh my God! It's not even just satisfying to like you watching a story, but it almost like it cures something in you. It's so satisfying to the point that it's a cure.
And by the way, just let's touch on that emotion a little bit. You made a joke, Dalal, but I've constantly had this thought, partially in fear and partially in joy. You made a joke of like, imagine you go to Taiwan and you see a theater hidden in the jungles saying Tower, and it's dedicated to our short films and all this stuff. And
That'd be so
you
cool.
made this joke, right? And I'm like, I didn't laugh because, sure, right? It's this thing, but as an artist, you wonder, what legacy do I want, right? Do I want to leave? I want to leave my art behind because it immortalizes my work, immortalizes me in a sense, and cinema does immortalize, art does immortalize, but the fear is, what if my films aren't discovered for 100 years? And I'll never know.
Yeah, you never know.
And the joy is like, what if they're discovered in 100 years and I never know? So
It's like
it appeals to me as an artist, right? It appeals to me as an artist of like,
But then, what's the point of your art?
well, that's the thing, right? His art was very now, and it didn't matter. His art was very political and speaking about the times and speaking about the inner city man and his struggles, and people were paying attention to Bob Dylan. You know what I mean? So like it's that weird front where like it mattered, it was very now, but people didn't discover it for 20 years, you know?
I'm just saying that like as a person, like if anybody asked me like,
This is my thing.
yeah, go ahead.
The feeling. These are your words, and they're very powerful words. And I want you to explore that feeling, whether it makes your rating go up or it doesn't. This is what I think is the most important aspect of cinema and art. It healed you.
Yeah.
That's massive.
Yeah.
When a film does that.
Yeah.
Or it explores like, why do I feel good? And it's not like your typical bullshit feel good film. It's like, I'm so happy for him. I'm so happy for me for discovering him. I'm so happy for his daughters. I'm so happy for his legacy.
100%.
Why? How? That has to be a powerful aspect, right? There has to be this powerful.
And I agree.
That's more important, in my opinion.
Yeah.
That's more important than did this documentary inform the next documentary
Why
in terms
is
of
this not on your top 10 films of all time then?
not.
This is just.
It's because it's a documentary, so it's,
That's the sad answer.
Why are we
It's the weird.
shoving
You're right. It's a problem. I stated that.
And we talked at the beginning of this chapter, this month of saying we're going to talk about documentary cinema. That let's explore it, but we can't rate it just as a documentary. We have to explore it as
you're
a
right.
film.
And you're right.
And if we're doing that, because that's really what it is.
And you're right. The problem is, I just asked you, and you only came up with one title that would potentially hit your top 10. Potentially. I don't think it would, but potentially. Man with a Movie Camera is in your top 10 films of all time. Not top 10 documentaries, top 10 films. I can't even tell you. This sucks, man, and you're right. I'm not arguing against you. You're right. It's a problem. It's a problem among cinephiles, too. I can't name you 10 documentaries that I like.
Yeah.
That's the sad world we live in. That's the sad reality we live in.
Like
It doesn't
4 or
make it
5.
right.
No, yeah.
Yeah, I can name you my
but
top
you know
5,
what's
perhaps.
weird? You know what's weird?
And I've been exposed to enough documentary cinema where I can generate a top 5. The problem is why, and that's just because we fall in that realm, dude. If I talk to a documentary storyteller, a documentary lover, they can name 20. They can name 50 because that's the world they live in. I think
like
because
Khan,
we live
all
in
those
narrative
people,
so much and the manipulation of images to tell a story narratively that we can almost play God with. And don't get me wrong, you can do that with non-narrative storytelling also. But it's this world that we live in as storytellers that I think influences what we want to show people to a sense.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make it right. I'm
No, and-
admitting I'm wrong as a cinephile and as a storyteller to not use a documentary to inform my storytelling or to inform my palette.
You know what?
It's a real problem.
It's also a challenge of, I'll say, documentaries that let's be honest, especially like in the age of like Netflix documentaries and Apple TV documentaries, where really these things, when they're produced and they're produced well, what makes it a bad documentary? I know I've thrown that term around a lot.
You've thrown around the fact that we're
I've
used
thrown
to
around-
these geography channel, whatever, you know.
Yeah, History Channel.
yeah.
Like
I was trying to say,
Don't
what's
mess
the
with History Channel,
what's the
man.
the magazine.
Geographic.
What was it?
Nat Geo.
Nat
Geo.
Geo. I was trying to say that, not Geographic Channel. Or
No,
whatever,
but then even like them, they've done an amazing job. Like I can
You were
say
on the Nat Geo
I was
doc.
on,
You look like one of those guys. And you
I-
work with one, yeah.
yeah, no, I was on a Nat Geo mini doc featuring Pete McBride.
Nice.
But in that, like, it's beautiful, and it's just to be this short piece that brings attention and all that kind of stuff. And you can see that, I mean, the level of documentary storytelling and the quality that's been brought to it, it's super impressive. I mean, I can list to you a couple of documentaries that I was super surprised that I'm there for the entire ride, and a lot of it has to do with the subject matter. And then I think that
which ones? Stuffed.
I really like Stuffed. There's An Honest Liar. There's
that
my
one sounds good.
Scientology documentary.
Oh, I saw that one.
And then there's another one called I think it's Hail Satan. And that like all
Would you
of
put the
those-
one that you saw recently about the people who've died?
Oh,
The afterlife.
Okay, that one's great, and I wish we did it. And if you want to, I would be more than 100% down to.
No.
Damn it.
Okay, let me ask you. No, let me
finish.
just ask you. Let me
Okay,
just
go
ask
ahead,
you
go
while we're here, while you're discussing some of the documentaries
Yeah.
that have impacted you.
Now look into each other's eyes.
Yeah. Now talk to him. And listen to me.
Okay, listen. Now listen to me and talk to him and point your eyes at his feet.
Yeah, and feel Austin.
Okay, listen to me. I have a question for you.
Okay,
in that
buddy.
regard, I have a question for you. Leaving Man with a Movie Camera out of the conversation, because I'm sure we'll discuss that film, and I don't want to ruin the rating portion of that episode.
Yeah.
Any of the documentaries you just listed that you say made an
Yeah.
impact on you? Absolutely.
Yeah.
On whatever capacity, storytelling. Are they rating higher than an 8 for you right now? Because if
Free
the
Solo is.
okay,
Because
if the standard
Yeah.
is 8 for your palette, right, and these other documentaries aren't above an 8, with the exception of Free Solo or Man with a Movie Camera,
But damn it, like
Well, that's my question. If that's the standard that's been set in your head and your palate, I'm curious about this now because this is the conversation of why documentaries aren't on our top 10 list, right?
True.
If this is the standard, then by definition,
Which one?
Searching for Sugar Man is one of your favorite documentaries of all time.
yes.
That's my question
But
here.
that's
my
a
point.
problem. That's a
Why
fundamental
is that a problem?
Because
Well, I understand why it's a problem in the bigger picture, but why is that a problem? I don't know, of acknowledgement, of acceptance. Because why? Because you haven't been exposed as much.
because we love everything and value nothing in this documentary month. Like
Beautifully put.
like
yeah.
we
Yeah.
we I if you look at what's streaming right now, documentary wise, especially like all the true crime stuff, I bet you will have a
loathe
night
it.
where you get engaged.
I loathe it.
No, but like you've seen enough documentaries.
You know what's funny?
Recently.
You know why? Castro showed us a trailer for a documentary, a Netflix documentary, and I'm engaged because I love the blues. Every fucking Netflix documentary feels the same, dude.
Get outta
Every
here,
fucking
man.
Netflix
Get outta
documentary just
here.
feels
But
the same.
do you remember the first time? The first time you
Nah,
watched a true
bro.
crime documentary and you really wanted to know who the killer was,
Oh, sure.
and then they found him,
Nah, dude.
and
There's
at
this
that
one where
moment
this
you
is
were
London
so
Heist.
impacted. Look, dude.
Let me
they-
ask you a question. Don't you you guys probably don't watch enough. I'm watch enough of it because of my wife. The equivalent of that feeling for me in documentary, unfortunately, is reality TV.
Nah.
It's entertaining. It doesn't mean it's a good picture. It doesn't mean it's a good.
Wait. Say it again. So you're
He's saying that
I'm
true
saying that
crime documentaries are the same as like Kim Kardashian reality?
the bad ones are sure. That and I
But
think
they're,
that's
they're trying to uncover a crime.
so.
you have no idea how many times I've gone and I'll have my moments, and it doesn't even have to be like a Netflix doc. Dude. It'll be like a YouTube kind of like. Have you heard of the pizza bomber? Do you know the story of the
I
pizza
love
bomber?
that one, dude.
Yeah,
I
that's
love
my
that
point.
one.
That's
bro.
the point. That's my
And-
point. It
wait,
diminishes
shut
the
up. Like,
value.
Wait, but
Dude,
when-
how do you not intrigued with
No.
some guy in the middle of the street with something attached to
Dude.
his neck and saying, I got a bomb, but I need pizza?
Dude, no. If you like the first time you heard that story, I don't care how it was shot. It's a YouTube guy. It's probably like some guy like, "Sup guys, it's Commander 67 here back with
you talking the structure
shut
of that one?
No, I'm saying the fact that story was
I've
so
opened up
good
Pandora's box
Okay, well,
here
that was so
because
good,
that's
but
that like I was engaged for
But it
whatever
cheapens
hours.
the art form.
They give you the
It-
landscape.
it
They give you the
cheapens
front.
the art
no,
form,
I like the whole
okay?
discovery of like, oh, how did they
Yeah,
get
no,
to it?
no.
Oh, they're so close
This
to the
guy-
house. Look,
this-
it's fi-
When I first heard that story, it was not a documentary. It was some guy on YouTube, and I was so engaged. And I feel like I've gotten that engagement over other documentaries or a lot of Vice documentaries. And the problem is I would rate Vice documentary storytelling a lot higher just because of the sheer challenge of getting that story.
Vice went bankruptcy.
They went bankrupt.
They went bankruptcy.
you see, it makes our society stupid too. This is my point.
Timestamp that. Here's the real one.
For what?
Here's the
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
timestamp that.
Okay.
What was it?
No. Give
Wait,
me-
Vice went
no,
what?
just say bankrupt.
Okay, director.
No, shut up.
All right. Bankrupt.
You know
the
what I
funnier it sounds with like
You know what
him
I'm gonna do
not
though?
matching.
I'm gonna like
Vice
actually
went
like the whole clip, like the video.
bankrupt. Yeah, bankrupt.
No, but
Doesn't it
listen to
cheapen
me,
the art
listen
form?
to me. No,
Doesn't
no.
it cheapen the art form?
No, because here's what I'm saying.
What cheap?
Because Vice documentaries some of them are
Some
feature.
are good, but some of them
No,
are-
but some of them are feature length. Most of them are short.
Yeah. No, but I mean, like Free Solo, right? That one. The subject matter could have been done very simply, just talking about did he get past the challenge, and maybe animate some little things or show highlight clips. But no, they had to go through also the physical challenge of getting each of these documentarians to cover him on the length of this journey up El Capitan, that mountain.
yeah.
And because of the sheer difficulty it would have been to record that documentary,
Yeah.
that's part of the reason that they got the
Okay,
Oscar. It was so. It's not only was it an engaging story,
I haven't
but
seen it, so I
the-
can't really
Well,
speak to
all
it.
I'm saying is that like with those documentaries, like there was a genuine feat in filmmaking that needed to be done to capture a story that wouldn't have otherwise
Oh,
been
okay, so
captured.
you're-
Another one that's a really good one. I think it's from the same year, but it's a short. unless it's the following year Oscar-winning documentary. I think it's the following year. Is My Octopus Teacher or something like that.
I've heard that.
And that one, it documented like the entire lifespan of this octopus and this guy, but to get there and be there in this atmosphere also required a lot of like
Okay,
a lot of
I'm with you.
careful technology,
I'm with
you
you.
know?
Here's the issue. Here's my question that I'd like to pose.
Before we get to your question, I just want to point this out. We're about an hour in, and we haven't even gotten your rating.
This is what good cinema does, right?
Can you just throw out the number and then we'll keep talking?
Yeah, I'm actually curious of what you're gonna rate this. I feel like it's gonna.
You know
be...
what he's gonna do? He's gonna walk off and be like, "I'll rate it at home."
No, I think like it's close to a 10.
I'll
but
rate it and find out next week
No,
on Dragon Ball Z.
He's
He'd
gonna
give it a
say,
10. I know that.
No, it's definitely not. It's because that's the
I
issue.
don't want to rate it. I just want to go sweep some floors.
Yeah, I'm with the law in the sense that whatever I set my rating as almost sets a precedent because number one, we've never really reviewed documentaries before, right? Number
Get outta
two,
here, man.
even just on our palettes, there's not enough to compare it to, and not that everything has to be compared.
That's what I'm comparing.
Yeah,
it to.
yeah, not that everything has to be compared, but what it made me feel.
Exactly.
What it took, the journey it took.
I can
me
make you
on.
feel good, and would you give me a 10?
I mean,
Time
I
stop
just
that.
might.
Stuffed made me feel stuff.
Stuff made me feel some stuff.
And side by side made
And,
me feel like I need to be by your side.
No, and that's the thing. Like, I know I can't communicate
That's
that
actually
to
pretty
you,
good.
but for
That's
me,
Yeah.
like when we were talking about the last documentary,
Yeah.
I know that I had a very negative interpretation of that world. That after watching that documentary, I didn't feel so bad. So, like, I know that it's like, oh, well, it didn't make you feel something big, so that's why we didn't really rate it that high. But it's like, no, but for some people, the way that they told it and the narrative and everything they gave around
Correct
it.
me if I'm wrong, though. The way it has, and there's no set rubric that we set on this podcast, but correct me if I'm wrong, everybody in the room. We basically use two points that average out into
ones?
one.
Left and right.
Left and right. No. The 2 points are what did it make me feel and what merit does it have on filmmaking? That's typically what generates our rating, right?
Yeah.
That's typically what generates our rating, whether it's subjective on preference or not. That's your opinion. But we typically say, yeah, man, I went through the journey of this dog. It made me feel the highs and the lows of A, B, or C, or not doc, but just film in general. And then the other side of it was like, well, but that Brad Pitt performance in Seven, no, you know what I'm saying? That's my point.
I still hate you for that, bro.
In the box. No, is it?
To the fucking box.
Yeah, dude. I think there's a subreddit that hates you, bro.
My point is,
We should have posted that
those
clip on
are
Reddit.
Yeah.
at their most foundational level the two things that we judge our
Yeah,
ratings
I agree.
for, right?
I just feel like my rating would be bad if I said personally, I think this is amazing and I loved it.
That's fine.
And it's
That's
a
totally
10.
fine.
That's-
Mine isn't a 10. However,
Is it a 9?
it's a 9.2. It
You
is.
whore. You absolute whore of a man. How dare you sit on
Listen
my
to me.
couch?
It is a 9.2 for me.
No, he also has his arm around you.
Here's the thing.
Yeah, dude. And
Here's the thing.
I could have my
noticing
arm
that he's
around
just little by little getting closer.
My heroes
You've
in cinema.
cheapened cinema.
No, your fruity little Vice docs cheap in cinema sometimes.
And Netflix stocks.
And Netflix docs. And I'll explain my reasoning behind that right now. But let me just say this.
You better explain every point on this 9.2 that you're about to give this film.
When I screen something like Get Back, right? Peter Jackson's documentary on the Beatles. When I screen Material Life, the George Harrison documentary that Scorsese directed. When I screen, and it doesn't have to be a music doc per se, but for the sake of the argument, let's talk about those docs. I'm well aware that I'm biased on the subject and topic of the documentary.
Yeah.
And that's naturally going to fucking boost my rating. Ron Howard did a great documentary called 8 Days a Week that I saw in the theaters. You know, but again, it was about the Beatles or it was about this or it was about that.
You're the reason he drinks.
You're the reason.
I was thinking the same thing. I was like,
But
Scorsese
I had this ready because I
Why
knew that
Scorsese
there would be a
again?
rating that I would.
my heroes have taught me, and something that I've used in my own cinema, in my own stories, that you typically end up caring more about the result of the picture over the mistakes, the camera bumps, you end up caring more about what you want this picture to be and what it wants you to feel.
Right.
And you know, I heard an interview today with the current director roundtables for THR.
Who did they have on it?
It was like Bradley Cooper, Michael Mann, Ava DuVernay.
Peter Dinklage.
Why do you keep saying Peter Dinklage?
he wants him in
I don't
there,
think
bro.
he's ever directed a picture.
No, but he was on the Actors Roundtable with Les.
Yeah, he was.
He was in a band, like a prog band.
And
Yeah.
that means he directed a picture?
No, but he directed the crowd.
No, I think he did direct a picture. The station agent, no? I think that was his. I think the station agent he directed. But anyways,
Wrong type of direction.
my point is,
though.
sorry.
Michael Mann and Ava DuVernay were going back and forth
Wait.
about this principle.
Vince McMahon directed a film.
Right before fucking.
Ava DuVernay and Michael Mann. Michael Mann directed Collateral and Heat, and you fucking orangutan.
Didn't he just have a
Ferrari?
picture come out this year? Yeah,
That's
Ferrari,
why
yeah.
he's on the.
Yeah.
On the
Did Carlos
roundtable.
just call me orangutan?
No, I called him an orangutan.
It's because of the beanie.
I mean, look at him. But
Mom.
they had this whole conversation about how the films that they're trying to craft are not indicative. I mean, like they tell stories. There's notorious stories of like even Bradley Cooper from Maestro. Every studio passed on Maestro, not wanting to take a risk, not wanting to explore the way he wanted to explore the story. And I think a lot about The Departed, right? And we'll talk about it on this podcast, but a lot of the arguments Austin and I get into of the editing, of the choices of some of those shots, of the choices of some of those continuity things.
The visual callback thing.
And I could give a shit. It didn't change the effect of what the film made you feel. Mm-hmm. Did you sympathize with these characters? Did you empathize with them? Did you care about them? Did you invest in them? Were you sad when Jack Nicholson fucking dies? Were you not? Were you rooting for him? Are you a piece of shit for rooting for him? These are the questions that I care about cinema.
Wahlberg and
I'm with you.
fuck, why am I blanking on his name?
Wahlberg and
The other cop guy.
Alec Baldwin?
Yeah, best characters in the movie.
Yeah. Even that, man, even on those kind of supporting character levels, they're memorable. You care about them. That's my goal in cinema, is to make you care about what I'm trying to tell you. I could give a shit if I had a camera bump on take 3, but if I believe him in take 3, we're using take 3.
Yeah.
I mean,
thank you.
So
You know, in this film, there's only 2 people that I think I'm gonna remember in perpetuity.
and who's that?
Yeah,
The middle child?
Sixto Rodriguez.
And Middle
No.
Child?
No, Sixto Rodriguez and
Middle Child.
the the fucking bar guy, or the guy who's just like, I thought he was homeless. It's crazy.
yeah.
He's wearing a beanie. He's
And by the
like,
way,
"Oh,
he was a
it's-"
bookend too.
Yeah. That you didn't see him.
I think his job title was literally bricklayer.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah,
Bricklayer.
like, oh, it was crazy.
Okay.
I just saw him walking.
But-
Mike asked to give me a CD. He said he couldn't even get
The
one.
bottom line
Yeah.
is, you're right. We don't want to set our ratings up here because et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
I just think
But
there's a fundamental
the-
problem.
Here's the fundamental question, though. Did you give a shit? And did it make you give a shit about this individual?
Yes, but this isn't the only film that has.
I'm not claiming it is.
Wait. I'm feeling like y'all shitting on my rating because it's too high.
No.
My problem.
I rated
is
it a
that
9.2.
hate
Dude. I mean,
kittens, and no. My problem is the fact that when I look at this and I enjoy a documentary, and I think a problem that maybe I have is when I really, really enjoy a documentary,
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm enjoying it because it's a great documentary film or because I just really like the story. Because
that's the question I posed at the beginning of this podcast.
But hold on. The first one, a great documentary film. What is that? Doesn't that include-
no, that's the big challenge that I have because I mean when we look at a lot
So
of
you're
the,
seeing like the structure,
yeah,
the way
like
it was
when,
told.
when I
Yes.
rate all
Yes.
of our narrative films, everything we've talked about so far, I can give a very firm rating because I can also back up a lot of like the techniques and the
Choices.
challenges and choices to get to this point.
Wow, dude, I'm still
but then
not
when
there
I
with you guys.
when I look at like a
you
documentary
are.
film,
You are, especially when it comes to the performances.
yeah.
So,
There's
but
also-
whether,
yeah,
whether
yeah,
the
so-
perform and correct me if I'm wrong, in your craft, the performances tend to lean a little heavier, weigh a little more when it comes to your rating.
Oh yeah.
That's what he's saying, right? On the craftsmanship of the story,
Oh yeah, my bad.
will it influence my rating?
My rating on this film was because of my craftsmanship.
Yeah,
too.
yeah, that's
So-
true. Now it's making sense.
The other side of the coin there is mine isn't, because I can justify these choices as a director. I can justify that it didn't matter anyways, unless, and that's the thing. You're talking to two guys who, sure, artistically have to make choices when it comes to their craftsmanship, but for the most part, the first part of their brain on the opposite sides of the spectrum is to look out for the technical. That's their job as storytellers.
You're also talking to like the two guys who
Yeah.
Focus the most on, like, I feel like the technical aspects.
That's what I just said.
No, yeah, it's just
Also,
like
you have to think about, you're talking about the two guys who
Also,
technically have to really think about this
it's
stuff
just
when watching a
that's some
film.
stuff that I wasn't noticing. That's
But as a director, I end up pushing back on the technical because I care about what it's supposed to do for
yeah,
it.
no,
Yeah, no.
Right,
And
so-
as a
I mean, you
director,
just went through
he's
this
usually
recently.
the guy who pushes back on them.
That what?
You just went through it.
I
recently.
just went through it on an amazing shot that I think should stay in the picture. A couple people have told me no, and then even more cinephiles have been like, no, dude, that's great. I know what it was trying to do. So that's the
And there were
weird
moments.
kind of question.
There were moments where I really looked at like this documentary,
Yeah.
and I could see some genuine gems when it came to like the cinematography. Like,
And I sit on a weird point on this because Austin made it very clear that, and I didn't remember that, I didn't realize this, that this documentary was screened very early in my filmmaking career. So my palette as a viewer wasn't quite as developed, right?
Yeah.
But my question to you poses there. I don't think I'm seeing this with rose-colored lenses because it still made me feel the exact same thing I felt 7 years ago. I'm wondering why. I don't think I'm biased because I don't have a loyalty to this documentary. But when I see a picture and 7 years later, it makes me feel the exact same way I saw it when I first saw it, whether that's negative or positive. That has to mean something. Again, I'm gonna base myself off of that. How did this story make me feel? Did it make me feel anything? Did I care? That's gonna be, I guess, my first basis of judgment, right?
I agree.
That's just me. But again, I come from the director realm where if a director's not really thinking that way, they're a very technical director, and their work shows that. The reason I compared it to compared other documentaries to the reality TV aspect is because
yeah, I don't get that.
they know how to entertain you.
they know how to entertain you. And this is the same issue I had with horror films 2005 to 2015, is that they were just there for the jump scare spectacle and not making you feel shit other than that, not giving
Yeah.
So I compare it to that basis because there's documentaries that are leaning into the true crime factor just because it's popular right now and it's entertaining.
But it's real.
Every documentary's real.
No,
It's more
they're
real.
exploring.
It's more real than Sixto Rodriguez? No, it's not. That's the
No, to the Kim Kardashians, because that still has a script. Whereas with this one, it's a true crime.
Sure.
I'm sure there's
But
a
the
script
whole-
to it to show the true.
The true crime factor, I think, is, or the reality TV factor, rather, is I think it's built. The unfortunate part is when somebody funds a documentary like that, chances are they think they're winning, they're betting on the winning horse because it's popular right now.
I will say this.
And they're not caring about substance.
I mean,
When you
probably most of them, yeah. But why would you say all of them?
No, I wouldn't say all of them. I'm
Okay.
saying that's a very consistent pattern right now in documentary storytelling,
Okay,
which is
I
what
agree with
turns me
that.
off. Which is what turns me off
But there's
about.
some good ones that really do go into it.
I can imagine so.
Like there's this one quick one that people should see. It's called The Amazing Jonathan. I don't know if you guys have known who that guy is. Heartbreaking documentary.
Okay.
It's about a great magician in Las Vegas that gets the shakes.
Oh, that's interesting.
Oh,
I mean,
dude.
sounds interesting. It sounds intriguing, but that's not a true crime documentary.
No,
Right?
I'm saying, but
That's my point. Is there's this built-in notion of like, oh, true crime, naughty, and you know what I mean? It's the same thing as like reality TV, where it's like, I can tell you firsthand. I can tell you from my personal experience, and I haven't forgotten your thought. I want you to.
my bad, bro.
When I watch fucking reality TV, I loathe it. And I'm like,
Yeah, me too.
fucking shit.
Me too.
Like, it's terrible. And then I sit there for 10 minutes because my wife begs me to. And then after 10, 15 minutes, I'm like, oh, that motherfucker's cheating. Oh, that motherfucker right there is fucking that one. Or that motherfucker. You know what I mean? I end up being entertained and this
don't
turn
you
off
watch
your brain
those,
emotion. You know, this turn off your brain factor. You know?
I mean, and there is something to be said about that kind of structure too. The fact that
It's
like
hypnotizing in the most
Yeah.
negative way, dude.
No,
The
no,
way
all
that
you gotta do is change the channel.
And
no, the way
No,
that
for
and
real,
I
for
think,
real.
But I think a lot of true crime documentaries fall in that same vein.
No,
they're
no, I don't
entertaining.
agree.
They're entertaining in the most negative way.
No,
but
and-
you're going over a crime that's been done.
Here's what I think is something
don't know,
very.
I'm still not
Here's what I
connecting
think
it.
is a very consistent pattern with human beings. The reason why people like roller coasters, horror films, is because you're afraid of that thing. The fucking what's the chemical in your body?
The thrill, the adrenaline.
The adrenaline and serotonin at the fucking end of this ride is because you realize that this could either happen to you.
No.
Yes.
When I'm watching reality TV, I'm just looking at dumb people reading a script, trying to incorporate it to their real life. It's not a real script. Where I'm seeing a document,
it's not always scripted, Castro.
no, you know what I think? You know what I think
It
you're not.
isn't.
What you're not communicating.
Genuinely. Genuinely. I know 10 people that have worked on reality TV, and it's not always scripted.
But it's not like scripted, like you gotta go line for line. They just give you a scenario
Sure.
and go off of
Sure.
that.
No, but here's
But
what I
wait-
think you're missing.
Yeah,
Here's what I
hold
think
on.
you're
But
missing.
then the true crime documentary is you're exploring a real crime and trying to see how it happened.
Here's the thing.
There's no.
Here's the thing. 10 years ago, I would have been on your side.
There's nothing fake about that.
Dude.
Maybe they might exaggerate some things,
Do you
but at
know
the
how
end,
many
it's how
Dahmer
that- how that-
documentaries there are that are, we theorize, he may have been in love with all the victims. Dude,
But that's
it's
not a documentary.
Yes,
Like
it
the one on
is.
Netflix, the
No, there
show or- I'm
not talking
but
about
around the same
series.
time there was a
Dahmer's
Dahmer.
documentaries have been infamous for 20 years, dude. Before it ever got popular because of the Netflix series. My point with that is there's a human condition that you watch it because you don't watch it to take you through this thing. You watch it to feel scared.
I kind of disagree, man. But okay.
There,
Oh,
but
you were trying to
what
say
I was
something.
gonna say is, in a weird abstract way, and let's just kind of go back a little bit. There are building blocks and little elements, kind of like we talked about with documentaries, that they incorporate all the little Lego pieces of filmmaking to get you to where you want to be, right? And in like, let's look at like reality TV. They're using the exact same pieces, but then they're manipulating it to make something entertaining, right? It's not the exact same as the true crimes. I'll say that. But hear me out. It's not the exact same as the true crimes, but they know the pieces to where, okay, let's say
They know which strings to
this
pull.
person is going to cheat later on in the episode. And we don't want the audience to know that, but we want to drop these little hints. And then you'll see like they'll zoom in on like a side eye, or they'll zoom in on like a person going around the corner with somebody else, or they'll like go to somebody's reaction.
Let me put it to you
I
this way.
understand all that.
Yeah.
There's a cookie cutter fashion to go about these.
Yeah. And then with true
Okay, I
crimes.
understand that, but that doesn't have to
No.
be.
But what I was gonna finish off with is that they use their own blocks and kinda
Their
like
own cookie cutter.
Their only cookie cutter blocks where they're like when they're making the documentary, they're like, okay, well, we already know that this is the killer and they found him on this date. So how far back do we go so that we
But
can get
it's
this
just
there?
like this one. It's the discovery of that.
Yeah, exactly. But they know when to put the twists and
Kardashians-
turns.
They know when to pull your heartstrings.
They
right?
know
No, I
know how
know.
to.
But I want those hearts and strings because I want to know about that guy that died in whatever
Right.
city. Whereas with Kim Kardashian, the strings that are pulling is like, oh, he's dating that boy.
But can't
Okay,
you agree
that's
that
all
the
fake,
reason
though.
that works?
Huh?
The reason it works.
No, the reason it works
It
is
just
where to
it
pull
just
the
works.
string.
It just works for more stupid people, but it works
get
the
it.
same way, right?
No, it works the same way, but it doesn't have the same meaning.
No, I
Oh, yeah,
never
of
said
course.
it had the
Oh,
same
that's what
meaning.
you were going with that.
No.
Like,
I'm
what?
saying that. I'm
He's
saying
just
that
saying
the
the
patterns,
constructed
yeah, the
nature.
constructive patterns of
Yeah.
the
Oh,
storytelling.
yeah, it was like with anything else. You have to have an intriguing part. You know, this is gonna pull some.
Here's the issue I have currently with
Sorry.
true crime, because it's such a popular thing in streaming, especially. Everybody's using the exact same patterns, which means it cheapens the art form, because out of 50 documentaries of true crime, there's maybe 2 good ones.
Okay.
And by the way, we've talked about this narrative. This exists in narrative too. You're
Yeah,
right.
and if you look at it like,
the issue is right now, the fad, what I call the fad of true crime, I don't think is gonna last very long.
Look at this.
People
Look at
die
this.
every day.
No, I think you're wrong. I think we'll last forever. But look
Yeah,
at that.
it's
Forever? I don't know about
when,
forever.
When
It's
they
a
talk
fun-
about like true crime cinema in
'Cause it's true, not
in
fucking
like
this fake
documentary cinema, they talk about Thin Blue Line, and the reason they talk about Thin Blue Line is because it's films like those, the older ones, that have made the foundation for like how are we going to talk about a murder?
Let
and
me ask you. Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
When you think about this was my exposure to it, right? Something like the Thin Blue Line, in addition to a History Channel special on the Crips versus the Bloods.
Ooh, I hate those.
What's the difference in patterns, in structure, in storytelling structure? Oh, we have a guy who doesn't want to be exposed, so he's going to be in the shadows, but we're going to change his voice and he's
Yeah.
going to ask. It's the same shit.
Well, not with the ones that I've seen. I've seen like this new one called See No Evil that they use the security cameras to catch a killer.
Tell me that you haven't seen 10
Oh.
other documentaries about using security footage in prisons, in gas stations.
I don't know for sure, but this is the only one that really incorporated.
Kind of leaned into
Yeah.
it.
But
I guess it's
let me put a big cap, I guess, on my kind of
Go for it.
feelings.
Go for it.
Where I'm having a challenge, and I think I'll continue to have this challenge. I don't think it's going to be solved on this episode or any other one.
Let's see.
But
Today could be the day.
a documentary that strongly impacted me, and I know impacted my family, and changed the way we look at this topic, and we are just fundamentally as people changed forever, right? Was like the Michael Jackson documentary. Oh, dear God. That one, they didn't need to do anything overly flashy. They mixed in interviews with archival. So
Archival's
and then they
original.
had enough archival footage of everything so they could paint out a timeline. And though they're never showing you a clip of the incident
action.
happening, they're always showing you a clip from that same year or era, and then the person talking about it and getting emotional. And they didn't need to do anything overly flashy. Other than just make sure that the structure followed these beats that they wanted to get. That affected me so much. And I know my mom, even with her, she was watching it. And then I think halfway through the first episode, because they break it up into two parts, halfway through the first one, she stopped it. And then she put it away for a couple of weeks. And she says, I can't finish it. It's too much for me. I cannot finish it. I'm genuinely like I walk around and I feel
Fuck yeah.
I feel anxious. Like it made me so uncomfortable to hear all that. And then she finally finished it, and then now our view and perception, all that has been fully changed. Can I say that is going to be the thing that then I give to people and say, oh, if you want to look at perfect documentary storytelling, that's how you do it?
No.
That's the problem.
and this is my
Well, how does that compare to Keeping Up with the Kardashians?
the execution of it all, right? The cookie cutter fashion of, oh, I know how to pull people's heartstrings when it comes to this type of topic. Could have been Michael Jackson. It could have been your next door neighbor. But the way I'm going to tell this story is the same, right? I know how to manipulate people watching this, and I know they're going to watch it for the sensation sense.
Okay, I get
like
that.
this-
No, I
think-
get that.
I think I got it. I think what I'm looking for in a top 10 rating is
I'm so good.
what I'm looking for in a top 10 rating
Yeah.
is something that can make me feel emotionally as strong as I did with the Michael Jackson documentary, but because of the way they tell it,
Because there was
it
intention
could have
behind it.
been a documentary about literally like an ant, you know? And if you can do that, if you can take an ant and give it the same emotional weight where for weeks I'm affected by this, and then I'll say that is a top 10 documentary.
I have my cap on this, so we can move on.
yeah,
I have my
yeah, yeah.
cap on this, so we can move on.
I just have one small note when you're done about the top 10 stuff. Go for it.
My cap on this conversation of what cheapens the art form, what I feel cheapens the art form of documentaries and what's popular right now. There's about every 10 years or so, I've noticed a pattern.
Is it that star that comes only 10 years?
Yeah. I noticed a pattern in filmmaking that ends up being the fad, right? Whether it's a narrative or in documentary storytelling, there's usually a fad. Whether it's Fast and the Furious movies, whether it's Marvel superhero movies, the craze of Star Wars or the rebirth of Star Wars in certain aspects, et cetera, right? About every 10 years it changes. I've noticed. Marvel's on its way out, for instance. What's going to be the next thing? We'll find out in the next couple of years because
Werewolf
it's been about 10 years
documentaries?
since. How long has it been since Endgame? 6 years? 5 years?
No.
Yeah.
Right? 2015? 2016?
No.
2017? Somewhere in that vein.
17?
It's been about 5 years, buddy.
No. No.
Yes, you're old.
But anyways, yeah.
Well, Austin looks that up.
Oh wait, what am I? I was looking something else.
Endgame. How long has it been since Endgame? Every 10 years it changes, right?
Endgame was 2019.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, so it's been 5 years.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to find out in the next couple of years what's on there. But by the way, that's the end of the Marvel craze, is what I mean.
Thank God.
Superheroes.
Or superheroes. in
Oh, like
Thank
they
God.
officially put an end to
the box office.
No. What is it called? The
MCU?
DC extended universe.
Right.
That whole thing they were doing with like Ben Affleck and Henry Cavill and that whole
Yeah.
universe. It's as of
Thanks to James Gunn.
Yeah, as of this Aquaman.
Yeah.
It's over.
Yeah, yeah.
It's over.
And
But
that-
even then,
Aquaman's the
the
last.
Marvels is the only film that got dethroned by something else.
The Marvels.
Yeah. Or Mrs. Marvel or whatever the new
It's
one is.
called Marvels, but what do you
Okay.
mean dethroned?
Yeah, it was the first Marvel film that didn't meet the expectations of other Marvel films in terms of box office.
Oh yeah, it like
got dethroned by-
It was the shortest film,
Uh-huh.
had the lowest like ratings, and yeah,
My point is, it happens about every 10 years.
bad.
What ends up fueling this fad is money. What is a cash grab? In my
Really?
opinion,
That's what you care about? Money?
Yes.
Who cares about
because
money?
it influences the state of cinema.
I was
on
just
the mass
referencing
audience.
Sugar Man. Sorry.
No, but I see what
Oh.
I thought it was
No,
good.
but I care because when it comes to documentaries, in my personal opinion, currently, we're in the craze of true crime because studios are recognizing it and they want to feed into the cash grab of it all. This is why, in my opinion, if you compared I don't know what a good true crime documentary is in your eyes. The best one. Give me the best one.
So you're saying the what?
Give me the best true crime documentary you've seen in the last 5 years. Your favorite one. I don't know.
I was really into the How to Make a Murder.
Okay. That's a film?
Stephen Avery.
Okay.
It's a documentary. Yeah.
Isn't that like a series?
Is it a series?
I think it might be a docuseries. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
It's kind of
Yeah.
in the same vein, right?
Yeah.
And that's a perfect comparison. This true crime docuseries versus the Michael Jackson thing.
Uh-huh.
I would assume, just based on ratings and what I've heard about How to Make a Murder, there's more intention in the storytelling than, dude, Michael Jackson's gonna fucking sell. And that's my point. When it comes to the true crime fashion of storytelling, right now it's like, dude, this shit is in right now.
But hasn't it always?
I don't think so.
The 90s?
No,
No, because there was less of it.
Look, my
No,
basic thing
I've
that it's
seen
still
a-
gonna. My bad. No, go for it.
Oh, I was just gonna add on that there's Investigate Discovery, and they show a
Oh,
lot
yeah,
of
those are
like
pretty good.
older documentaries, and yeah, you see that like from like the 80s and 90s, like they'll do reruns of old crimes that have happened. But like, yeah, no, I think true crime has always been there. I think maybe Netflix has just upped the production value and the storytelling methods.
And that
and
fad
that's why
ends
it's
up
coming.
expanding in other areas.
But
Did
I
you know
think-
how many true crime podcasts there are right now that are
No, yeah,
fucking
that's getting a
top
little-
of the podcast
But
game?
what I'm saying is,
Yeah.
it's still gonna be a thing because there's always murders and there's
Sure,
always
sure,
interesting
sure.
ways.
And there's always going to be a fan base for it.
No,
That-
there's not so much a fan base, but it's gonna be murderers of either fans of like true crime murder or just fans of like that murder.
Let me put it to you this way, just as a basis of comparison, right?
It's always gonna be.
For what's cheapening documentary storytelling. I was more interested in the documentary of Michael Jackson being killed. Was he killed by his doctor? Than I was about sensationalizing
Or
something,
is he really dead?
right?
definitely
Sensationalizing
did.
something that
Did you ever see the
that
bottom?
we've been obsessed about for
I saw
20
before he
years as a
died.
society. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm more interested in that factor, like the King of Pop. Was he killed? Did he die? Did we explore enough of it?
Because I was
Well,
actually
sure.
interested in what's going on.
There's
Who
all-
was the real Michael Jackson?
There's also always going to be, I think, documentaries in every genre. There's going to be films in every genre. Because, I mean, look at this one. There's going to be hundreds more documentaries about bands their start,
Sure.
the artist, where are they now? That's such a contemporary topic, and you know,
will they be VH1 behind the music documentaries, or will they be searching for Sugar Man?
you know what?
And that's
I'll
my
say
point.
this. I'll say
Okay.
this. In that category alone, the fact that I do feel like when it comes to band documentaries and when it comes to like talking about an artist and really you bringing you into the story and the mentality and everything like that, no, it definitely goes up. I feel like Searching for Sugar Man really shows the potential
Yeah.
for I think a lot of music
agree.
documentaries
The
and
intention, the merit, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to, again, VH1 behind the music or whatever it's called. They're entertaining as fuck, man.
Soft Nine.
Are they this? No.
No.
So
Soft.
You had a point.
yeah, I was able to find 3 credited lists of what people consider the like 50 best 25
docs.
of all time.
Oh, I like
Of
this.
what? Of true crime or docs?
No, just
overall.
docs in general. Just
Oh,
kind of
okay,
bring
okay,
it back
okay.
to Sugar Man.
Okay.
Which I've got IMDb, Rotten Tomatoes, and as of 2019, Sight and Sound Critic poll.
Okay.
Man with the Movie Camera is number 1 on the Sight and Sound poll.
Sure.
Sugar Man is not found anywhere on that list. On IMDb, it's Blackfish at number 1. Searching for Sugar Man's at 14.
Which one's the other? Last one?
IMDb.
IMDb. Now, Rotten Tomatoes has Man on the Wire as the best rated doc.
Uh
Searching for Sugar Man is number 37.
Okay.
So,
Oh God, that's such a
yeah.
wide rating list. I mean, the reason I feel like Sight and Sound will hold Man with a Movie Camera so high is because
Look who's
Critics,
voting on
yeah.
it.
yeah, no,
Look
it's
who's voting
critics,
on it.
but it's also like when it's almost like historians, right? Like if you look at like the history of cinema,
Yeah.
when you're going to talk about it, that's so foundational to what cinema is today. Not even just for documentaries, but for everything. So it's so hard to say that Man with a Movie Camera should not be on that list.
No, of
but
course.
if you look for like audience polls, I mean, I had to
Yeah.
watch it for my class, but if I hadn't watched it for that class, I probably wouldn't
Man
have
with a
watched
Movie
it
Camera?
otherwise, and I probably can't convince other people to watch it otherwise. I mean, we'll review it at some point.
Yeah, we definitely will.
But
I will
it's-
say this.
It's a cinephile kind of like sub, you know, like
Yeah.
We talked about, I'm glad Austin brought that up because we talked about even on the stuffed front, right? It did get so many ratings by so many critics on so many lists, right?
yeah.
I never once stated on this podcast that I think this is the best documentary of all time.
No,
I've
but
stated that
earlier-
it's
no,
my favorite
No,
documentary.
the reason I
You
bring up the whole
insinuated.
top
One of-
the whole top thing I brought up because as you were trying to bring up, I think everybody here at some
Yeah,
point, like,
and I only
within
stated
the
that
top
because
10.
I don't know enough documentaries to make an argument here.
True.
Here's
By
what
the
I will
way,
say.
Thin Blue Line is number 5 on the Sight and Sound.
Oh.
Foundational.
Foundational,
that genre.
Foundational to that genre, yeah.
Okay.
This is the last thing I'll kind of say before we can probably give our other ratings.
Yeah.
I'm at 9. Soft 9.
Someone who you guys know I hold in high regard, cinema-wise.
Tommy Wiseau.
Yeah, sure. The late, great Roger Ebert
Oh.
gave the film a glowing 4-star review, writing, and this is the only thing I needed, not like his opinion, but what it made him feel, or what he said. He said, one of his things about his review, I won't read his overview, he says, I hope you're able to see this film, and yes, it exists because we need for it to. Probably the most respected film critic in the history of cinema, and gave it a 4-star review, which he rarely does in his ratings.
Is that all of it?
No, I just read
No,
the
but is it 5 or 4?
4.
It's 4.
It's usually 3 out of 4, 2 out of 4,
Okay,
1
yeah,
out of
yeah.
1, 2 out of 4. We need it to exist.
That's a good line.
Yeah.
Um,
Searching for Sugar Man.
Searching for Sugar Man.
Such
Any
a
any
unique and-
rating changes?
No.
I'm at a 9.
I'd make
Soft
mine
9.
a solid 9 instead of a soft 9.
I'm at a soft 9.
It got hard.
Oh, shit, then.
He shoved
Solid
it in.
11. No, yeah, it's solid 9 instead of a soft 9.
Soft 8.5, and you shoved
I
it
have.
in to get a 9.
I'll give mine last because I have something I want to allude to.
Guys, throw any change?
Like I know you guys saying, but I really did like it, man. I'll give it a 9.6 still.
So, that holds-
Yeah, man.
holds
It's
true.
just about the story, and I really, really got into it. I really, really
Yeah.
got into it.
But on Tinder, is it a 10?
But 10 is a
No,
10.
but I'm curious when we have another documentary month that you bring. Change my mind about true crime.
We still have one more doc left this month.
No,
Yeah.
but I mean, he doesn't have another pick
Afterlife.
coming up.
Tune in next
true
week.
dark-
Yeah, bring a true crime one that's gonna blow my fucking mind.
That's a challenge.
That is a challenge.
This is what I'll say. I still hold at a 9.2. I've been obsessed with this principle in storytelling and this principle in stories that has really captured my heart in cinema and viewing cinema, but also storytelling and how I can explore this thing. My favorite film of all time is Good Will Hunting, as everybody knows.
2?
Good Will Hunting 2. And a principle in that film is all of this had to happen for these individuals almost to end up together, right? And I'm going to say fuck it to what I think society wants me to do and do what I want to do type of aspect. When we talked about In the Mood for Love, we talked a lot about the world had to change for these two individuals to fall in love. Mm-hmm. I've been obsessed with that principle, and I even incorporated it in my own storytelling, right? Like, we have a shot in there that to the general audience member doesn't belong there, but to me, it's the world is constantly revolving around them. The world is still going around, despite the fact that they're going into their thing. I've been obsessed with this principle. What I think is the most special about this story is that the world changed, and all the stars had to align for Sixto Rodriguez to exist in the capacity that he did. Yeah. And what fascinates me the most about it is, per your definition, per documentary definition, it's a real instance.
Yeah.
In the Mood for Love was written by a man, but Searching for Sugar Man was just pointing my camera at a topic, and it actually happened. The magical realism aspect of this dude fucking created a revolution, has his name in relations to apartheid, which is a global fucking thing that happened that was huge for history. And musically, he's respected. Mm-hmm. This film is respected. It crosses all these lists, right? It crosses all these check boxes of like, the world had to align, the stars had to align, the world had to change for his story to almost be completed.
That's the beauty of it, man.
I can count on my hand the amount of films that's done that to me.
Yeah.
And this is one of them. It just has done that to me, where it's like, sure, this is too good to be true, but even to complete his story, the world had to change. Is that a cosmic thing? I'd like to think so.
Damn, you're getting really deep into it.
Is it a cosmic thing that apartheid had to happen and the only individual who had an impact was a fucking Mexican man from Detroit whose music had to be bootlegged into a country where apartheid was going to be a part of in order to create a revolution there and create the inspiration? He's, quote unquote, the Elvis of South Africa, right? That's powerful, and that's powerful storytelling too, to showcase that in the proper way, the manipulation of images to show you why. You could have done away with the apartheid thing, and this documentary would have still been compelling.
Yeah, but now they're saying it definitely gives it a little bit more.
So,
no, it definitely.
Like you said, man, it's still. I can't believe it.
And that's where 10 years later for me, I'm still like, or 7 years, whatever it's been. That really happened?
Exactly.
And nobody gave a shit, and nobody still gives a shit.
That's my whole question right now. Is like,
there should be books written about this man. There should be a book written on the punk revolution he created in South Africa that encouraged people to protest against the establishment through music.
I'm amazed that he's not like mentioned in music
Why
classes.
isn't he talking? Yes, exactly. And that's the sad truth to it. I will, however, give this man his flowers on this podcast because what you may or may not know is, per your question, Castro, there's a fourth act of this story.
What?
That we lost Sixto Rodriguez in August of last year. He turned 81.
What did he die?
He had a stroke. And we just lost him last August.
To be honest with you, man, like since I watched this dude, I was like, man, I wonder if I'm ever gonna get to meet him. And you just
It's gonna be okay, all right.
So,
cause that's a myth, dude. That's a myth right there, dude.
He didn't join us. Not this time around. He's got his mug.
Rodriguez.
So I want to give this man his flowers, rightfully so. In music, in cinema, you made an impact. Made an impact on my storytelling.
Same.
Cheers to the man.
Cheers, man.
Cheers to the sugar man.
Cheers, man.
I'm searching for him.
So,
Respect to the guy, dude.
again, if there's any filmmakers out there, pay attention to both. Learn the rules so you can break them. But ultimately, make sure you
Beautifully
make
put.
cinema that makes you feel this, whatever that means to you.
I'm gonna give the film a 10. I really like it.
No, give your, I still hold at mine, but
I'll
'cause
hold it at a 10. It was really good. I'm gonna show it to everybody, and I'm gonna cry.
Right? It's just we got into the film. I understand, but it's a good. It's just
it's just something that,
like you said. I'm trying to think of something better, but a better documentary.
and
I
hopefully
cannot.
you guys recommend documentaries to us where we've acknowledged that we're not as well versed as we probably should be in this genre
Yeah.
or in this.
Damn.
Would you call it even a genre? It's in
It
its
is
own
a genre.
Okay, I mean it's bigger than a genre. It's its own form of storytelling, right? To an extent, but it is cinema after all. So we're not as well versed, maybe, and there might be a better. Like I told you guys, when I watched that Pigeon Tunnel doc recently, I was like, "Holy shit, man! This is good storytelling." You know, I don't know.
We always end this podcast with documentaries that kind of are similar to this one. Which
Oh.
is similar to searching for.
Leaving Neverland.
No, I'd say music docs. So
Yeah,
music docs,
good
yeah.
music docs.
I feel like things that kind of go behind the scenes. And
I would throw in I'm getting the name wrong. I know I am. A Material Life, George Harrison story.
What about the Bob Dylan one?
Yeah.
That's
You
the
know
one I
what's a
was gonna
great
mention.
one is No Way Home. I think that's what it's called, the Bob Dylan one.
Yeah.
Not just No Way Home, but Rolling Thunder Review. Both directed by Martin Scorsese. And great Bob
Really?
Dylan documentaries, yeah.
None of like the biggie ones.
The biggie ones. Oh, like which ones?
I don't know. Aren't there a bunch of them?
There's one that I saw in 8th grade that I rewatched recently that still kind of holds true for me on Biggie.
Which one?
I don't remember the name. But it's still pretty good. Music docs.
Oh,
Well, if you're gonna do that,
Oh!
I-
No, go ahead.
I don't know if it's off the beaten path, but it's called An Honest Liar.
good title.
It's I would recommend
Heard
it.
of it?
It's about a magician and kind of like his life, but his legacy is the fact that he understood magic and the techniques that people use to manipulate like your perception of reality, and use that knowledge to help bring down megachurches, like the ones.
Oh, I love
Yeah,
that.
the ones who would actually go.
That
But
Joel
then,
Epstein guy.
yeah, but then
Not Epstein.
once kind of
Osteen.
Osteen. But once he does that, then it has this beautiful third act that goes into who he is as a person and his own struggles and all that kind of stuff. And I just feel like it really takes something that's so mythical, like a magician, and you did this amazing thing, and then when they talk to him, you realize, oh, but it's a person, and
Sure.
what is the human element behind all this? And I feel like a film like this, where it takes that myth, but then the way that it ends, it brings it back down to just the real human elements of like, this is just a guy who, he says, well, maybe I could have had a career, but I don't know. And I like to think that what I did was good, and I'm just going to keep working and doing what I'm doing. And then, they just kind of go on. And the same thing with An Honest Liar. It's one of those where you see this guy go where, he really was, he was on the David Letterman show. Oh, no, not Letterman. Johnny Carson. He was on the Johnny Carson show
Carson.
multiple times and talked about magic and how he felt that people were being deceived, but not by, like magicians, by people who wanted to just take your money and everything. And then he wanted to try to like stop all that. And then afterwards, he lives at his home with his partner, and you see just the honest struggle of this guy, and it's beautiful. I love it. I was almost going to pick that one for
Well,
documentary.
talking about that one, one of my favorite ones is the one I told you about, the Amazing Jonathan. He was one of those regulars in Las Vegas where he kind of like blended humor with magic. And the whole documentary talks about like, his lifestyle, and, he partied a lot with David Copperfield and all these guys. Comes to see that he has a Parkinson's or something like that. And he tries to have what do you call those guys that you bring in? Like a mentor? Or not a mentor,
Protege?
a student.
A protege?
So it's so sad because he's part of the act, but he's in a wheelchair now.
Oh man.
Oh,
that's interesting.
dude, I remember the first time I saw this guy was like in 2001.
Oh wow.
Yeah, one of those old school TV ones where he's just like drinking out of a bottle and then it just disappears.
Oh, okay.
Very funny guy. Very
Kind of like, what's that guy
Penn
now
Teller?
that's really, really popular? The magician. I mean,
Chris Angel
No.
and
Well,
those.
our generation was Chris Angel, but there's a new guy.
David Blade.
I think so. Blaine.
Blaine.
David
Oh my God.
is the guy that's
No,
like,
this one was so unique because he
Yeah.
was just different.
But what I mean is, he probably set that precedent for
Oh
guys
yeah, for
like
sure,
this,
for
right?
sure.
Yeah,
And it
it's
just
interesting.
at the end it's one of those documentaries at the end where you're just like, you never know when it's gone. You know, this was his life. You know, cards and all this
Sure.
stuff, and now he's just seeing it through you know, one of his students. Oh, dude. Oh,
Well, that's a great one to recommend.
yeah.
I got two to recommend.
Mm-hmm.
Documentary called Life Itself, and it's
Life
about
Itself.
the late great Roger Ebert
Nice.
and his career. And essentially, a lot of people don't know, Roger Ebert had cancer, like mouth cancer,
Yeah.
towards the end of his life, and they took out his bottom jaw. And he had that kind
Like
of
Val
loose
Kilmer type?
lip thing. No, like completely took it out. Like he had that. Basically the bottom half of his face was a loose kind of
So they
face.
just took it off.
They just took off the jaw, and he was talking through a computer for the last he's a writer. And that kind of tackles that a little bit, right? Like a man whose voice was so popular can't really use it anymore. And because he had a show and his voice in cinema and his voice in critics, and the critics kind of realm was the biggest.
Yeah, it was heard. For sure.
Him and Siskel, Gene Siskel, and they had a show together, Siskel and Ebert and all that stuff. So it's a great documentary, kind of in that vein of like unsung hero, but at the same time the biggest voice in criticizing cinema. So that's a great one, Life Itself. And the other one I wanted to discuss that impacted me is Mr. Warmth, the Don Rickles story.
Don Rickles.
Don Rickles, the late great Don Rickles, and his career, and him hanging out with the Rat Pack in Vegas, all the way to him making impact in films like Casino and making an impact in things like Toy Story and playing Mr. Potato Head, and at the same time being arguably the most respected comedian at the peak of his life. I mean, especially in crowd work, he was the crowd work master. And now we see guys like Trevor Noah, like Matt Rife, like Andrew Schultz in crowd work.
Crowd work. Yeah, crowd
And
work's
if
a
they
big,
don't
big,
list Don Rickles as an influence, they're wrong.
Oh, no,
because
yeah.
he was the guy. So anyways, just
They give
those
him
are
the
the two I'll kind
blueprint.
of recommend that are in the vein of like individuals who should get their flowers a lot sooner.
Yeah.
For all the right reasons. Austin, do you have any? Kind of in
Not
the vein?
really. No.
Okay.
I really love this documentary, man.
Searching for Sugar Man.
No.
I was intrigued from the start to the end, dude.
It will live on the
All the way till you told me that he passed away not too long ago.
It just happened. And I'm willing to bet that if we would have done this episode a year ago, I probably would have gotten him on the fucking podcast.
I'm not gonna lie, I had a little thing in my head like, hey, you never not can meet this guy.
I was waiting for it to say it in the documentary, like as of the ending of it, like he recently passed away and all that kind of stuff. Because you could see he was just like
Yeah.
up
I
there
mean,
in
mind
years,
you, this was 10 years ago.
10 years ago.
The release of this documentary
Yeah.
was 10 years ago. So
No, and then I mean people who have their like
Yeah.
height in the 70s and all
I
that stuff.
read, however, though, that the man toured as recent as 2021. Like
So,
he was
okay,
still doing
that's
it.
good.
He was still doing it. So
Do you have a record?
I don't have a vinyl.
I'm ready to get one.
Yeah, same. I don't have a vinyl. I wish I
Try to
did.
get one, dude.
But I have the Blu-ray and I have a CD, an old CD of his. But
We'll get a bootleg one of them.
that'd be great. Imagine. I mean, they must be fucking rare right now. What?
Stop fingering the mic.
You told me to at the beginning of this
Not
episode.
keep moving it.
Anyways, Search for Sugar Man. Go check it out if you haven't. You
won't be disappointed.
Amazing
Yeah.
documentary, and it.
Oh, and thank you for listening to our conversation on documentary. I mean, this was
2
We're not done
hours.
yet.
We have one more.
2 hours. Jeez.
Stop fingering the
I was
mic.
taking this off.
It's a tick.
It is a tick.
next week
Next week
On Dragon Ball Z.
on our new
we're
studio.
gonna be tackling something that's very popular, especially amongst sports enthusiasts. A 30 for 30, which
your man,
documentary
Austin man
wise
over there.
is an interesting thing I've been wanting to get into. I've only seen a couple myself, and they end up getting different directors from different paths of lives.
30 stories, 30 directors.
Yeah.
Whoa.
That was the point of 30 for 30.
Yeah.
That's a 30 for 30. Yeah.
And these different stories. I mean, Kevin Connolly directed one
Yeah.
from Entourage.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
the guy.
I know Doug Ellen was the producer on that one, or wrote for that one, or did something for that one.
Shout out to Doug Ellen.
Yeah, shout out to Doug. But yeah, that's interesting. And we're gonna tackle what I assume is your favorite of this.
My
series.
favorite of a 30 for 30, yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
So tune in next week.
Excited.
I would assume that just like
You didn't even say the name of it.
I don't know the name of it. I just
It's
know
Requiem for the Big East.
Requiem
Requiem.
for the Big East.
Talks about the creation, rise, and fall of the Big East.
Of the Big East.
I'm excited.
Yeah, I would assume that just like The Last Dance, you don't have to be a sportsman
You don't.
in order to get this.
Oh,
So,
no. 30
You'll
for 30.
appreciate it a lot more, though.
Yeah.
I know Gosh was going to freak with a lot of the people they talk about on the doc.
yeah.
I'm excited. I'm really excited.
And also, the narrator of the film we've had on the podcast.
Who's the narrator of the film?
oh,
You guys want to know or you want to wait?
I want to wait.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. Let's let people tune
Just
in.
know that we've had him on Towercast.
Really?
And it's a big name.
Yeah, it's a big name.
Dang.
Who could
Gus?
it be?
Goes to Frank? No.
Melissa
Gus?
McCarthy.
Was it Gus?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Giancarlo's
nice.
the narrator.
Oh,
It was,
nice.
Giancarlo Esposito. That's awesome. Did you talk to him about that?
No.
Oh, okay. Tune in next week.
Yes.
Requiem for the Big East, 30 for 30.
In our new
And
set.
it finalizes our documentary month
Before we go into our
before
Oscar.
we go into our Oscar picks. We'll talk about that next week, but we've got a lot of exciting kind
Absolutely.
of bridges into this year's Oscars, but starting out with our respective fields as storytellers
Yeah.
to pick a film Oscar related. So tune in for that.
Oh, if you have gotten this far in the episode,
Make sure to subscribe.
yeah, make sure to subscribe. Obviously, you like listening to three guys on a couch now.
For 2 hours.
You know what? We'll take a moment of silence while you do it.
All right.
All right.
That gave
Thanks
you
for
enough
doing
time.
that.
No, please subscribe. We love doing these, and we're going to keep doing them
Yep.
because why not?
I love him.
Yep.
This is great. I
And
love
we
the
have a new set.
conversation.
Ish.
Yeah, this
Do
is
you
awesome.
like?
That was
That's
the
how
whiskey.
excited you are?
That was the whiskey talking.
No, that's
Oh,
how
yeah.
excited you
yeah,
are.
we have a new set.
How are
It's
the
cool.
couches? Are they comfy?
They're
really
pretty comfy, honestly. They're
Yeah, yeah.
way more comfier
All right.
than the chairs.
Now take off your clothes.
We'll close it.
Whoa.
All right.
Shout out to Beto, my sister-in-law, who kind
Beto.
of opened up the door for us to
Can
get
we
these.
also give one more shout out to Khan just because?
No. Shout out to Dr. Carrizal Dukes for screening this documentary for us in Intro to Film class, because
Yeah.
apparently that's what happened. Thank you.
My documentary professor just got a grant.
We already talked about this.
I already gave her a
know.
shout
Let's
out.
give
you
another
goof.
mention.
And you're gonna give Dukes again?
Yeah, because she showed us this.
I've never
Already-
even met a Dukes.
Talked about this.
Did you have Dukes in college?
No.
He didn't go. He didn't go to.
I have Dukes. You didn't have to. She
I
taught
didn't
at
go to-
UTEP.
He didn't go to.
She taught at UTEP the last year I was there, I think. For like Chicano cinema or.
All right. Thank you so much for watching,
Thank you.
everybody.
Thanks for tuning into the Watch Our Film
Take
Podcast.
care.
Good night.
Love you guys.
Go searching for Sugar Man.
Except for Chris Paul. I hate Chris Paul.